we continuing? Yes, we are. We are going to continue. And I think the rest of us will join us as we proceed, because I'm sure you have paid for this course, and we are paid. So to begin with, my name is Rhoda Wairioko. Rhoda Wairioko will be joining you in this journey of exploring what consultant is. And from where I'm logging in, I don't know about you, it's a very bright morning, a brand new day that we've got, and with very good sunshine coming through. So I'm sure we are all alive and vibrant. So let's absorb everything that we're going to explore together as if we've never learned. We unlearn and we learn new things. So my name is Rhoda. Rhoda is a HR consultant. I'm also a trainer with the Academy of Certified HR Professionals. We all know who the Academy is. That is why we are here. Academy normally do conduct trainings, both the certifications, symposium, and these other trainings on emerging issues on all matters HR. So we are specialized in HR training, and that's all that we do. And I'm one of the facilitators with the Academy. Being a HR practitioner, like most of you are, which I believe, and I'm also in the consulting business. So this is one of my topics that I'm very passionate about, exploring consultancy. And today we want to look at, or maybe try to look at it from a very unfamiliar ground of internal consulting. I know what comes to your mind every time you hear consulting. And you always think about the external consultants that come to our organization and do consulting, be it in HR, in accounts, in terms of the auditors, people who comes and review the businesses, the business processes, management consultants, culture change management consultants, IT consultants. So it has that connotation of an external person coming into your organization to do the consulting in the areas of expertise. And some of us probably have looked at ourselves and thought, yes, to do any of these activities, we have to look for an external consultant. And you find like HR is also another fertile ground where a lot of consulting does happen. In a number of activities, we hire consultants. Maybe I could just hear from you randomly. Have you ever worked with a consultant? What were they coming to consult? Were you part of the consultancy, or you invited someone into your organization to do consultancies for you? And just your general understanding of consultants as we begin. Let me hear from any of you. You just unmute your mic, and I just hear, you just say, good morning, introduce yourself and tell us what comes to your mind immediately you see the topic consulting, and what are maybe some of the things you'd want to pick as we go along. We are here together for the next about 3 hours, so we need to learn, need to know our expectations, so that then we are able to discuss and see what we are looking for. Let me hear from you. You can unmute and speak. You can type your comments, or even your expectation on the chat, and so that we can begin from a common understanding. Let me hear from you. Anyone? Consulting, when you hear consulting in general, what comes to mind?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
My expectation today is really how to become an effective internal consultant. But what comes to mind when you talk about consultant, I kind of tend to lean more towards the external consultant. And as much as the external consultants come to assist a business, in my view, they come just to use the information that you have. Yeah, just in another way. You provide all the information, you say what needs to be done, and an external consultant, their work is just to go and put the same in writing. That's what I've seen. And a number of times they leave you with more work on their behalf.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Juliana, for that very elaborate explanation, and a very good understanding of HR consultant, or even consulting. Actually, the work of us, the consultants who are coming from outside, of course, I carry the two badges of being an external consultant for other organizations, and internally I also do consultants. But you'll also find there are some areas where we have to look for external consultants probably, and we look at some of the reason. Maybe you need another external view because probably you are conflicted. You want an external view or someone who is looking at it from a fresh mind. So, Juliana, that is actually what happens. Most of the consultants, they don't come to do the work that you need to be done. They're just facilitators. They'll just come and sit with you, issue with a questionnaire, conduct interviews, focus groups, tell us, send us this information, send us this information. So you do a lot of the groundwork, actually 75% of the work. Then they just go back and analyze. And also, by the time they are asking you for all this information and they are engaging with the other stakeholders in the organization, they are collecting their attitude, their views, and what they want. What is it like you guys want? What does success look like at the end of the day? Then he's able to combine all that you have, put it in how you want to hear it, or probably the main stakeholders want it to do, and also give you various options to weigh what can be done. So actually, you're very true. You do, as an internal person or the person who's been attached to that consultant, you do most of the groundwork and a lot of work. And at the end of our tour, our external consultants will also leave you with an implementation matrix, an implementation plan for you to even do more work and to deal with internal issues that have to be dealt with. Talk to your other senior leaders, other employees, to show them, after we did the consultants, these were the recommendations, and there must be an action plan for you to operationalize what you have done in terms of the consultancy. So very good and very well. And I hear you want to actually become an effective internal consultant. We will look at what is required of you. What is the role of this person we are calling the internal consultants as compared to the external? What competencies do we need to acquire so that then we can intentionally work that role, knowing for me to become effective tomorrow, in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, I need to equip myself with this kind of skills so that I'm able to move to the right direction. And before you know it, Juliana, you'll not be even crying about the hard work. You'll be happy to know, thank God I did it. Now I become a full-fledged external consultant and I can do all what you have been doing in HR to earn some extra coin. And you monetize what you call, you monetize now you are professional. And most of us always ask ourselves, after HR, I don't know, Juliana, for how long you've been in HR. Then after retire, after what do I do with myself? So I don't want to tell you quit your job, leave your organization and go into consultancy. Start from where you are. Master the art. Become that sought after internal consultant in your organization, that even when other departments have issues, they want to come and consult with you, Juliana. And before you know it, even your friends in your church, where you network, where you socialize, will be coming for advisory from you. I understand you're a HR professional. We're having this problem in our organization. How can you help us? And even your friends, these things have happened. You are a HR for all these years. Help us. Before you know it, make it cash out of it. Very good. Let me hear from someone else. Hannah, Agnes, what is your take when you hear this topic, consulting? Agnes, I can see your video is on, so probably you could just unmute and tell us something. Your expectation could be just what I expect to learn from this course of internal consulting. What is it that I understand by consulting, or when I hear of a consultant is coming on board? What happens? Agnes, I can see now you put your your video on, but you could just unmute, tell us something.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yes, what I understand by consulting is where you have information that maybe others are not sure of, and they want to get information from you to clarify issues that maybe they don't understand.
Very well. And maybe you could also tell us, why are you here with us today? What are you looking to learning or even unlearning as we proceed, so that we can, I want to ensure by end of this course, which is taking us, our 3 hours are very well invested, and we actually get what we came to learn. That is why I keep on picking. I would want to know as you speak, what is your expectation of us?
My expectation this morning is to get to know how to do consulting in the right way and professionally, so that I get myself not just, I'm not employed now, I'm
Yes.
retired. I would want to practice my HR skills as a consultant. Yes.
That is
So I
great.
intend to a better view of how to do it in the best way possible.
Very encouraging. Yes. And I like the candidness that has come with. Agnes has said currently she's not employed, so I can see it's someone who is really willing to learn, and she has gotten her own investment in terms of looking for her own funds to pay for this training that is coming from the academy. And that is one of the reasons we try to make our courses very affordable. Everyone, because we know we are at various stages. She actually have a lot of wealth in HR that she has come with, but then she wants to go into consultants, and probably she may have missed the opportunity to have unpacked this topic of consultants from an internal, but I'm sure she was also able. You'll find that from time to time, we have done these consultancies in one way without knowing, or probably even knowing that you have been given a whole task force and you are working on a particular project, whether is it a change management, is it organizational effectiveness, is it the review of the organization structure, is it recruitment? Basically, even the recruitment we do from very fundamental stage, it is internal consulting. I'm sure, Agnes, you are the one who was doing background check for your employees. When you recruit, you conducted interviews. That is all about consulting internally as the in-house counsel or the in-house consultant. And then you can come now, wrap it up, and make it a full-fledged consultant. Of course, the academy also have another training for HR consulting, which is more elaborate and looks at both now what you're describing, that external consultant, and it will be able to equip you with the tools and the equipment to be able to do that. So in the next time that you get in touch with the academy, I know Dan is here and following up with us, he could offer that so that you know what are some of the things that I need as I go out and how to maneuver in this. So I think that's fair enough. And unless there is any other housekeeping issues, I'll beg to proceed with my presentation. Agnes, thank you for that. Juliana, I can see, I had seen your mic was on. Did you want to add anything? Or you're good to go?
No, I think what I wanted to add is that sometimes as internal consultants, there are some areas where probably the business may not feel comfortable enough, and others probably where we want people to open up. So that's why at times then we seek external support in terms of consultation, because probably there may be lack of trust in certain aspects, and especially where culture is concerned, probably things to do with the employee engagement survey, where you want people really to speak their mind just as it is, like it is. Sometimes you find that an organization may not believe the internal HR resources, and they may want to get an external support.
Very well said. And especially even us as HR, wherever we work, and as we network, that is actually what happens. Or probably, of course, we operate in organizations with different cultures, different expectations. At times, even where you find yourself in HR, we need to do an overhaul of culture change, audit. And you don't want to be seen to be the one pushing, because it can go wrong on you. So you look for your other colleagues who are consultants and tell them, there is this problem that we have, these are our pain points, and we are looking for someone to come to talk to our people, try to dig out, and then we come up with the solution as you are guided. At times, the board may be wanting to do some changes and reorganization movement of some functions, but they don't want the internal person to do. So the external person comes with some level of neutrality. They are independent. When I come to your organization for consulting, what I say and what I do does not affect our relationship, because this is a contract-based kind of an engagement. If you are not happy, probably what you'll not do, you'll not call me for another job. And you'll say, as Julian has said, you'll call it as it is without sugarcoating. For you, because of where you are, the position that you find yourself in, there are things that you may not be able to tell your board. There are things that you may not be able to tell your colleagues. You may not be able. So in those circumstances where you find you are conflicted, you need to remove yourself from the scene and allow someone else to come and do that. Those are the areas we should be looking for consultants. So however much you are well versed with this, I said I carry both two hats, but you'll find there are a lot of consulting activities I cannot do where I work. It is not because that I don't know how to do. I would know, and I know how to do it, but I'll not be the best person placed to do that. So we will look at that, and that is very true. So just to take us on and to look at I hope you can see my screen. You can just confirm.
Yes, it's clear.
Great. Yes. So what we're going to look at, we're just going to look at what does internal consultants do, which we have actually said most of the activities, right from the recruitment, interviewing, the selection. You might be able to do the review of the organization structures. Some of us are very good at doing the job analysis, which just entails coming up with JDs and analyzing jobs. Others are able to go to the next level of job evaluation, but very few. Because we see job evaluation, you see for the job analysis, it just talks about what the JD, what are the functions of this job, and to a big extent, what are the competency framework in terms of the qualifications for the academics, what are the qualifications in terms of the EI experience. That one you can be able to come up with, because by the time you recruited that person, you already had thought about the job. You had a JD, you had an advert, and you can also take the activities of what they do on every day and come up with a JD, which people sign, and against that, then you can be able to give performance targets for that. So that's very easy. There is no conflict of interest, because what you do, what you have been employed to do, it is basically what you do. But when it comes to job evaluation, which is the assessment of the relative worth of the job, money comes in, hierarchy comes in, power play comes in. Everybody wants to say my job is more riskier than the other. I have more authority because a lot of consultants. So everybody has vested interest because they want to expand their roles so that they can be placed higher in the hierarchy in terms of how we organize jobs. Of course, even departmental, we know we have these departmental silos. Every function, every department where there's a section head, there's a head of department, there's a director, there's a chief manager. Of course, there's that fight of which is more core than the other. We've had those discussions. Of course, every function wants to be elevated to that highest level of probably of a director, chief manager. And in reality, you know that there are jobs or there are some functions or departments or unit or sections that whatever you call them, they cannot be at the very core on top and maybe to be headed by a directorate. So because of those conflicts that comes in, and maybe the kind of task force you also have, you'll find most organizations looking for an external consultancy. And of course, when you have internal staff doing the job evaluation that will come up with the salary bands and what is it in it for us? And even as a good consultant, you may tend to ignore the affordability, the sustainability, the cost implications of this. Because what we want, there are more taxes. There is the heavy levies on NHIF. We have the housing levy. So the only moral thing and the obvious things for us is to raise the salary to a level and maybe probably forget what is the business in existence. What is the affordability? What is the cost of doing all this? So for that, you'll find external consultants bring board. We're also going to look at, apart from what the internal consultant does, which I have explained, I normally want to explain mostly maybe from the outline of what you are going to, just to prepare your mind so that we are not lost in our slides. These slides, you'll have them for life. You're going to access them. Once you have registered your certificate and slides, you'll get them. But for me, what is really key is the sharing of our experiences, because we are all experienced with HR, with decades of experience. So once we understand it from a very layman, practical orientation, then when we start now moving fast into the slides, we'll just be taking in, stopping, pausing, asking questions, and we analyze. And we internalize and contextualize from where we are coming from, because we are in this HR. And that's why I love training with the academy, because you're interacting with people who are in the same field, the same operational, who have the same issues. whether they're good issues, teething problem, and we can always go back apart from the consulting on the topic that we are to discuss what are the pain points we have in our organization. And then we are also able to unpack which other course am I looking for when we come to the next training. So that's why we take it. So we're also going to look at, are there special skills, competencies that an internal consultant should be having, be it from an individual perspective, me as Rhoda, me as Juliana. Because you find when you talk about competencies, it touches on the knowledge. Knowledge is the conceptual information that you have. It talks about the skills which we master over the time, which we know they are also attributed by your personal attributes. There are some skills and competencies that have been influenced by your past experience, your exposures. What kind of organization have you been working in? What kind of people have you been socialized with? So we look at it. And of course, for you to be able to be an internal consultant, you must be able also to sit in a position of management or leadership. Because most of the consultancy work internally you do, you're going to deal with the other stakeholders, departmental heads, senior managers, CEOs, board, because we are looking at a business as a whole. Living where we are, because of course we understand the HR has evolved over time. Before we used to be in this industrial age, then we were in the personnel where everything was just administrative, leave, payroll, and all that. And we've come out to be in the HR. We have moved from what we call the HR, which concentrate on the basic functions of HR, recruitment, training, development. And then we have gone to a higher level where we want to be the strategic HR. And when you become strategic HR, from the word itself, it means you are responsive to the strategy of the business, of the organization, of the company. And every time we talk about the business decisions, I want you to remove yourself from this. Business is out to make profit. And someone will say, Rhoda, I don't work in a business. I work in a service industry. I work in a public institution. When you talk about the business, it is the mission. What is the purpose of that existence of that organization? What is your organization out to do? What is their vision? And that is now anchored on the strategy, that the strategic roadmap, that this organization in the next 2, 3, 5 years, we have decided we want to move from point A to B, and this is our strategic, or what we call our roadmap to moving to that. So we want to be in this HR that is strategic, that all your HR decisions, activities, and the solutions that you are giving are anchored towards the achievement of the strategic plan, which is the business objectives. So we want to tailor all our solutions to be responsive to the strategy and the achievement of those strategic objectives. So we want to look at, why is it very important for HR to be in the decision making? And are we in those decision making platforms? Where does HR sit? Do they just sit in that HR personnel office? Do you sit in senior management? Do you sit on the table when people are discussing strategy? Do you have a space even in the board to influence the decisions that are making because of your activities, because you have understood the business and you are here to offer solutions that will offer solutions to the complications and the pain points of the business so that you are able to move. So you are there to serve the business or to enable or to facilitate the business. That is the approach I want us to take the internal consultant with, that you're going, leaving your office, sitting with the other business organs and the units, seeing the challenges they're struggling with, non-performance, profits, they're not meeting the targets, they're having these turnovers, and you'll be able to have that business acumen and say, this is what we are here for. This is what these departments stand for. And why are they not performing? Why are they not meeting their targets? Because they have this. And you'll come and say, yes, as an internal consultant, I'm here. Then we can work this together and come up with a solution so that we are able to move from where you are, the business that is struggling and the unit that is struggling, where you ought to be in terms of the strategic objective. So that is what we call the strategic importance of engaging HR. We need to be engaged. We want to be in that business setup where we make decisions. And why is it that important? Just because we are in HR? Is it because that we have done CHRP? Or because we need to be heard and the industry is growing? There must be very specific reasons, or which are of strategic importance. So you need to know, where does HR sit? What is very unique about us that we need to sit in that table? Then we're also going to, on a very high level, and sticking to the internal reflection, look at the steps to consulting engagement and also how we process. How do we lay it out? How do we go about it? And that is where now your proficiency, your effectiveness will come into play. And of course, that's what I merely call the methodology or the process of doing it. How are the steps? So we are going to look at that. Of course, we're also going to look at, as you're coming up with all this and you want to do the consultancies, we must be able to do what we call organization diagnosis. You diagnose the situation to determine, is there a need? Of course, there is what the departments need. As an external consultant, this is what the organization needs, and you need to sit and look at the situation and actually determine, is what they're asking actually their problem? So this is where we go into the root cause analysis. We may be thinking there's so much high turnover and people are moving out because of the salary. You might get a client telling you that. But is it because of the salary? At times we say people leave their managers, not their organization. Maybe there are cultural issues. So you go into that research and analysis, meet the people, questionnaires, interview them, so that you are able to diagnose what is the root cause, so that you don't treat the symptoms. You actually go to the root cause of the issues, and then you are able to determine what are the needs of this organization that I work for. What is the needs of this client for Agnes? And what is it? That is why we need to do that internal analysis. And we are going to look at what is diagnosis, just like the word is. You can go and diagnose a car. Your car has refused to stop. You take it to a mechanic. He tried to do a few things, but it can still start. So there are times you'll go to those diagnostic machines. So when you come to organization, the same things work. You may go to a doctor if you're using the doctor's analogy. I've been having a headache. I've not been sleeping well. So you have all these symptoms. So most of the time you'll find the doctor will not just give you Panadol, paracetamol, a pain reliever to relieve your headache. They may in the long run, but they must run some tests on you to find out what is triggering all this, the fever, the headache, and all this. And they might find you have a bacterial infection or a viral infection. So the first is to deal with that infection. And as we are working on that, you may in the long run give you some painkillers just to reduce, but not to treat. So that's what we're going to look at, the organization diagnosis. Again, we're going to look at the role as an internal consultant to management of HR-related issues. So again, apart from that organizational overview, we come back home to HR. What are some of the things that we can do? And we look at several of them. And I always want people to look at it. What are the quick wins? Where are the low-lying fruits? What is it can I quickly pick as I advance? And you know which is my area of strength. Then you're able to specialize, because the most important thing is to specialize, master your art, granularize what you really understand that you can do even when you're sleeping, and then you'll be able to move. And also look at what are the opportunities inside here in our organization that I can easily be able to consult. And when I go out, what are the most sought out for HR consultants activities that I can easily pick and move on using maybe the least resources that are easy for you, quick to finish. So because of course you want the return on investment. Of course, again, we're going to look at how we provide HR guidelines, consulting with other business functions in terms of the collaborations. How do we do the influence, and how do we tackle about it? Of course, what comes out of consultants, as Juliana had mentioned, it is not always very palatable. It is not very easy to give. It may go contrary to people's expectations and beliefs. And you may find Doda is the one who has invited you to do this. Consultants or this head of the department is the one who has been complaining about their staff, the way they're coming in late, the way they're not finishing their assignment, the way they are lazy. And after your diagnosis and doing the whole, you find actually Rhoda is the issue. The departmental head is the issue. The way he does the issues or how he deals with his employees and relates with them, he's actually the issue. So we're going to look at how do we give honest feedback, objective feedback to our internal clients. And in this case, this is now how we compare the internal clients with external. For Rhoda, I may be able to tell you in very good terms, this is the feedback. This is what your people have said. People have said you do this and this, because Rhoda has nothing to lose. It is contractual engagement. After I do my report, kudos, Rhoda's goes. And I can, and maybe I'll come back because I know some board members, I know some senior managers, and I've done a good job because I've been able to expose Juliana for her incompetency, for the way she relates with her staff. So I have very little to lose, because even though you don't work for that client, of course we want the repeat business as well. So you must be able to give honest feedback, but from a position of care. When you are now an internal consultant, there is your relationship with your colleagues, with your seniors, with your other departmental heads. You are caught in between, because as you're doing these diagnoses and you're doing all these interviews, maybe the staff below these senior people at a loss. They're at a loss. They have given you the feedback. They have trusted you. They want to see you as Agnes, as Hannah, as Margaret, being able to give them a solution, because they cannot tell their boss. Now they have very high hopes and expectations that you'll be able to deal with that. So they have a lot of high expectations of you. And there's the relationship between you. You're going to be relating with them on every day, and you're going to continue being there. There's also the section head, the head of the department, your seniors, you whom you may be in the same level, or most of the time, they're even senior than you. How do you maintain that protocol? How you relate to them? They allowed you to come into the department. They are able to come out and tell you their pain points in the organization, because they have so much hope, so much belief in, because you are this HR expert, you'll be able to bring the issues to an end, and you'll be able to reconcile them. So we must give it from a position of care for the best interest of the company, for the best interest of the people we are working with. So we will look at how do we package that feedback, what are the do's and the don'ts, and what are the most maybe effective thing for us to do when you're unpacking that, because maybe some of those feedback may not be easily taken. Even when you do a performance appraisal, it is very hard to pick the feedback. And then we also going to look at how do we go about to package our recommendations. After we have done all that, then we need to package our recommendations. How do we do it? And then finally, on our last slide, we may just look at what we call performance coaching, because we are all here because we want to do. So maybe I may pause at that point before now we change gears. That is what I intend to cover for the next, I can see it's already 10, probably for the next almost 10 for the next 2 hours. Any question, anything that you think, does it sound like we're going to have a good journey? Anything you'd want as Rhoda, when you're discussing that, you could also tell us about this. Then we can move now to the first topic. Any reactions? Just unmute and tell me. And of course, the first slide we have covered. Do I take silence? You can also type your comments on the chat to mean that we are good. I'll be able to see your chat. You can just type them if there are any reactions, or I can see that means we are good to go. All right, so let's proceed. Internal consultants, I think we have already unpackaged that, so I'll not go back to it. It is what Juliana and Agnes has mentioned. It is what we have discussed, and it's what I've laid the foundation for. So what does internal consultants do? And we say that internal consultants, it can be a group, it could be an organization, or a group of individuals, or it could be just an individual like you who serves internal clients in an advisory capacity. Of course, here looking at internally, the individual will be me, you, or that HR employee who is working in that department as an individual. When you talk about a group, during my journey of trainings and in my tour in various organizations, you will find, depending with your orientation and the organization you're working, there's some department. In fact, when I do physical trainings, especially when we train on the HRBP, the certified HR managers, I'm always curious to find out the structure of your HR department. And what I've come to pick along the way, there are some HR departments that are so robust, so wide, that does not have the traditional structures of the head of HR, director HR, HR officers, and all what is in the department is the nomenclatures of what your level of hierarchy is. There are some organizations with full-fledged sections and departments within HR, a level that have come to see organizations, especially which have financial targets, that have business consulting arm of the business in the HR department doing HR advisory. They are within HR, they're HR employees, and what they do all the advisory and capacity and link with the external consultants in all matters HR. Beyond that role, they also go out to other organizations to do advisory, and they generate income. So HR becomes an income stream for the entire business in consulting. So I have worked with and have seen those organizations that works well. So it can be that individual like me and you as an individual, or it could be now that group, that session that actually serve. They start first by serving the internal client in an advisory role, and they can also extend their mandate in external clients who they are seeking services. So you look for quotations and they'll be able to send out their people, including the HR, and they'll be able to do that. Look at organizations like FKE. Look at organizations like CPF. They do that a lot, that you can go into an organization, go to within the HR department, and you'll be able to get people who can be able to do that. That you may need someone to come and train you on performance management, and we see our head of HR or this person is so good, or our performance management advisor or our HRBP can be able. So they convert HR to be an income. Apart from the normal routine work that we do, administrative and partnership, we also become income generating. So that's what basically internal consulting do. So we are saying bringing a specialized management consulting expertise to improve the performance of the organization. We are looking at the organizational performance as well. So all the activities that we do, they are actually focused to improving the effectiveness and the performance of your organization. So which is also aligned to the strategic objective of that business. Number two, we say working within the corporate structures to resolve business issues and also implement business-centric solution, so that we can be able to improve the organization effectiveness and also strategic planning, and also the process how we do our activities, probably through the job analysis. Then the other thing we see that they also serve as change agents. Anytime the organization is going through a change management process, then the internal consultant in HR can be called so that they are able to intervene in that process. Most of the change process that happen, people generally don't like change. And change actually involves people. It is people who have to change the way they have been doing a particular role, how they have been carrying out a particular process, because a new system have come and gone. Probably you are introducing a new ERP that is affecting every employee. Of course, we have got that system itself, which is an external thing that is supposed to facilitate. But this change, it's supposed to be facilitated by individual employees. It affects people. We are the people, we are the people's managers. So of course, change comes with a lot of emotions, a lot of attitude, a lot of changes, a lot of discomfort, because people are used to what they are used to doing. But now you'll find some quarters of staff who are resisting this change. They'll say, the system we have, I've learned it over many years, and it is working for me. It is serving. I'm an expert of this. Why do you want to remove this and take me to a new system that I didn't even ask? But maybe when these changes are coming, they're coming from a business perspective. We want to improve the effectiveness, maybe the number of transactions, the speed, and also removing the duplications we have in the process. So as people move with those changes, there are emotional issues that go into it, then you want to deal with that. Please give me a moment, just a minute. Just a minute. Sorry for that. Just a call, an urgent call I needed to pick on, but we will proceed. So those are as people move through the motions of change in the organization, we want to move with them. And you'll find most of these departments we call the core departments are very technical in nature. They are very operational. But of course, when you look at HR, we work with people. We understand their dispositions, their feelings, where they're coming from, where they are going. And of course, as they're having those challenges, we want to feel with them and really understanding, why do you think the other system was better than this? So we work with them. So as HR, we become change agents. We also become coaches. We also become educators. We educate people. I'll take an example of performance appraisal system. Very few people in the organization are very comfortable with the performance appraisal. Why? Because they have to give feedback. Probably they don't understand the process. Again, HR is deemed to be the custodian of most policies. So we must sensitize people on the existing policies, their benefits, their rights, their responsibility, and also those of the employer. So we become educators by impacting knowledge on our areas. So even training, if you are to take up the role of a trainer, you're going to be doing the induction, the trainings on specific areas, and then you can also be facilitator. You facilitate and you enable the other department to be able to achieve their goals. And the other issue is supporting internal clients or in shared service kind of operations in an organization, such as human resource. Most of these organization processes and assignment, I said, you can you can outsource, or you can have that role in HR. If you go deep into the HR business partnership, where we say HR is structured in maybe three main areas. We have what we call the shared services. Shared services is the services that serves the entire organization, which can even be outsourced. Issues like employees calling to find out about maybe the payroll changes, about their leave balances, about how the medical cover is operating, about the policy, the benefits. This doesn't need to be done by an expert. It can be done through the shared services, or what operates like a call center, that any inquiry that is coming on staff, I want to know my medical benefit, I want to know which hospitals, I want to know the list of medical specialists. That one, you can have a shared center of services where by a mere call, someone has all that, and we normally use the ERP or just the HR information system to be able to gather all that. If I want to know what is my entitlement in terms of the car loan, what is the process that I need to, that can be done by a general, a HR generalist in a shared service. Of course, we have areas where we call the centers of expertise, where people have specialized in a particular role, like the job evaluation, talent management, trainings that are very specialized, and then you can anchor of that. So you can support employees either from the shared perspective, the shared service perspective, from issues of training and development, because training is not just training delivery. If you look at how we really want to analyze the training needs and expectation, is because first you start from coming up with what are the needs of the business. What are the areas that we are not performing so well? And then we come up, what is causing all this? Then we'll come up with mitigation measures, or what we call the interventions into that. And training and development is just one of the many interventions. So when you go to training, you don't just do training because you want to take hours, the number of people you have trained to implement a training calendar. We go into training that is responsive to the needs of the business and the people, because we have identified a training gap. And then you come up with solutions with curriculum and materials that are going to fit those gaps that are existing, so that then someone can be able to see the return on investment in terms of how they used to perform their work before being exposed to the training and after. So we want someone to be better off and to do a better work in terms of the performance before they were exposed to the training. So we look at the training and development and also the talent management from a very strategic perspective. So in it, it becomes a nut and an area that you can do a lot of consultants in. Some of the things you have in your training calendars, you can even actually deliver yourself if you understand the needs of the business. What the business, because you understand them better. Of course, IT is also another area. We could also have people who are having consultants in finance, because I don't want us to lock ourselves in such a way that HR are the only people who can consult. Even the other departments, we have to want to have pockets of professionals within your organization who can be internal consultants for the business, because we are looking at it from a global perspective. So we could have financial consultancies, quality management. Even when you come to HR, we have specialized people who deals with quality management, the ISO experts. Those are internal consultants that anything that is ISO, probably anything that is touching on health and the workplace safety, we have an expert who consult for that. We don't need to look at maybe for an external consultant, or you can combine the two so that they're able to work together and do all the inspection checks, the quality management checks that they are supposed to do, ensure that the organization has the compliance and they are certified. So that is also another rich area of, and especially I can tell you, even when out here, we keep on looking for these people who can do quality checks, experts of ISO, the health and safety and environmental service within the HR. So you'll hear a lot of consultants asking, Rhoda, do you have a trainer who is specialized in quality management? Do you have a trainer who is specialized in workplace health and safety as a niche that someone has actually really embraced, and they are very good? So when you look at every niche, right from the policy formulation, coming up with operational plans, implementation plans, approval processes, it's a whole docket within HR that can be consulted in. So what is it that you know is your strength, areas that you do so well? Whether you're in HR, we understand we are in different organizations, that you could say, I'm in HR, but all the activities that I do in that HR department are administrative in nature. There's hope. All is not lost. Take what you are doing, the trade that you've been exposed over a long period of time, and convert it to a consultants and a nut that can give you money that can be monetized. Even the money that you save your organization from going out to look for a consultant to train, sensitization, trainings, you can go around your various offices and regional offices to do those consultancies work. Then there's also what we call the competitive business intelligence or NESO planning, which could also be part of that. So maybe some of the skills we said we can look at that. What are some of the skills and the competencies that you need as an individual, which are very intrinsic, individual contributors, and also maybe some of the leadership and management elements that you need to work on, so that then you can become a good consultant. So I'm hearing some comments on the chat, or just people joining. Okay, that's okay. So we can, if you can feel free to unmute. If you feel that I'm moving so fast, you can always stop me, and then we can explain any points that is not very clear to you. So, so as we proceed. So what we are saying here is that the internal consultant's competence model actually, it's just a framework of competencies which touches on both individual and external and also internal contributors for leaders and manager, which ought to be linked with this kind of work we are talking about, internal consultants. And some of them on a very high level, you need to have skills in management consulting. You must first understand what is consulting, what are the processes, and at a very high level, management consulting skills. You must be a level where you can engage with the management people in leadership to consult for them. That's what you become a management consultant. Management consulting in your area. The other skill that you need to have from an individual level, it is looking at the needs of your clients. When you look at internal consulting, the needs of the clients, who are your clients? Your clients are your colleagues. The internal customers are your colleagues and the staff in your organization. So you must be able to work with them and give that client service focus. It's about them. It is not about you. It's about the business. It's about the company. It's about your organization as a whole. So you are able to remove yourself from it, from your personal perceptions, and bring yourself to the focus of the client. Then you must be able to be a professional so that you can have a professional touch and impact in the role that you're going to carry out in terms of a consultant. The other thing, whenever you go to a consultant, definitely there will be change because there are issues that have been brought out that have pushed the client to come seek for your intervention. And there is a desire to change from one point of non-performance probably to optimal performance. So this is a change. Something must change. Something must be upset for us to be. So there's a metamorphosis of that. So you must have what you call the change management skills to know how that change come about. You are aware what is the change management process. How does it have an impact of the people? It goes into stages. What should I anticipate? Of course, a bit of resistance. There's that person who wants, let's say it's an organization that will need to redo the way they operate. They want to see a fundamental change. So for them, they are looking at the end in mind. What does success look like? But they have not factored that these changes is going to be implemented on processes and the people. So you must be able to understand that change management process, the reactions, and how to manage all that. You must have what you call the business acumen. You must be at the heart and at the center of the business. You must understand why this organization exists, what they want to do, understand their vision, the mission, understand the strategic objective. If it's, you must be able to have the business acumen by understanding the performance, interpreting financial figures, the impact of the environment, know how the industry operates, the competitors, and where you stand as an organization. So you must have what we call the business acumen. You must be able to have coaching skills because you're going to coach people with it, the staff or the management in terms of how you're going to carry out your consultant, because probably it is lack of skills that is lacking. It is the relationships that are being impacted by this, or maybe the skills and how people relate to each other. These consultants, we take it as a project. You must have what you call the project management skills, and then you must be able to understand the business process optimization, because ultimately we are looking at being efficient in how you deliver your services. In terms of leadership, consultants is about communication. It's about communicating to people. It is about doing the diagnosis, your research. It is about collaboration. It's about engagement. And you must be able to have the communication skills like active listening. You must listen to the client to understand what is it that is bothering them. Then Even as you do your consultants, there is the feedbacking. How do you communicate? So you must be able to come up with that communication vision. Again, you must have the selecting, managing, and developing others. When you go into diagnosis and research, where do you want to collect your data from? Who are the people that you want to engage? How do you manage them? And how do you develop capacity of the people that you're going to work with, or the people that you think are going to be influential or useful for your activities in terms of consulting? Decision making. Once you collect and hear a lot of feedback from everyone, of course, the feedback that you're likely to get from different stakeholders will have interest, vested interest into them. Your understanding after the organization diagnosis is probably different from what the organization thinks they need. And you must be able to run through various alternatives and options and be able to narrow down into a decision. Because all these consultancies, it must end up with outcome. So the decision making, analyzing different informations and different opinions to be able to come up with a decision that can be implemented, that will influence the decision, and that will also show what has been the outcome or what is the return on investment. Issues of team building. You'll not work in isolation. You must work with different teams in HR and also in other departments. So you must be able to build the team synergy and to work with people who are like-minded or have different approach to the area that you're working on. So team building, because you want to be a joint effort. You're looking at having a win-win situation. Then, of course, we talked about the strategic business planning, how you do your planning, how you do your implementation, and also how you do the reviews, the monitoring, and also any adjustments that may need to come. It must be very clear in what you're doing. Then you must be able to know how to collaborate with other departments in terms of the cross-section of business units that you will work with, because you'll find even recruitment, what are the needs of the department? Who are going to be in the selection panel? Who are in the interview panel? Who are going to be making the decisions? How is one department likely to influence or impact on the performance of the other departments? So all that must be wrapped up together so that you're able to have. So those are basically the skills and competence on a very high level. But as we continue, I normally like most of the time using pictorial because we are able to remember them. So these are some of the requisite competencies of a successful HR consultant when you come to from the organization to the HR consultant. One of them on a very high level, we are trying to facilitate organizational change. And you can link that with the skills we talked about, change management skills. All consultants does, they facilitate. I don't know whether it's Agnes, it's Juliana who said, internal consultants, you as HR, you do most of the groundwork, a lot of work. The HR or the external consultant only come. For us, the decisions are made by the people. For us, we just bring the professional expertise and guide people through the process. So what we do is we facilitate organizational change from one point to the desired change. We must have business acumen. We cannot overemphasize that. You must understand the strategic objectives. Why do the business exist? What are the things that they want to do? What does success look like for this organization? That's business. Is it the profit? Is it the satisfaction of the clients that we serve? Is it the business growth? Is it capturing more market share? You must be able to understand. So even for those people like Agnes who are looking out to go to external consultancies, this is one of the areas that HR, we are really beaten by other people who comes into consultants. You will find when you come to HR consultants in the field that we are in, majority of the big tickets in the HR consultants and even non-HR, because all what they need to do is to do CHRP or one HR course. But then they're able to speak the language of the business, which we are not able to speak. a lot of accountants, a lot of former CEOs are the major management consultancies, people in risk. Because if you look at the nature of the work, the people who come up with strategic planning on the other life outside here, they are the best HR consultants and they make a lot of money. And these are most of the people who get the big ticket jobs. And they will come and hire you as the HR, Juliana. Your fate is still there out there when you go out. You will find these people who have been strategic consultants who come to your organization to make the strategic plans, who comes to do organizational effectiveness, and they do those scanning of the environment and they're able to talk the business term, are the people who get most of these big tickets. But because they are not HR experts, they will come now and hire you, Agnes and Juliana, to come and do the legwork for them because they don't know how to do job analysis, but they have won the big ticket of the consultants. Then they subcontract you now to do much of the work. So at times you'll even find yourself, you're doing 80% of the work, but they weren't getting paid for that because we lack what we call the business acumen. Then they are able to do the whole environmental scan, the regulatory framework, the legal framework. They're able to look at the competition, the whole market. They're able to look at those financial statements and understand this is what the business want and this is where we are. And that's what those that are quick to say, why don't we do reorganization? Why don't we declare redundancies so that we lift the ship can sail? We remove the excess that we are carrying. Because they understand for this ship and the organization to sail, it must be operating in a very effective way. Business acumen. How many of us in HR are able to sit back and reflect and analyze our organization and business and see why are we ailing? Why are we not posting as much profits as we used to do? How comes we are not meeting the corporate performance targets? Are you able to look at those corporate contract plan and see as an organization, why are we performing at 70, at 80? How comes we are having a lot of customers who are complaining? We are having a lot of staff turnover, and then you come up with solution. So you must be business minded. Just on a light note, I've seen a lot of us who cry because they have been removed from HR and they are all HR damu. All what I do is HR. Now you have taken me to a business department. I don't understand the business. For me, they're doing you a favor because you're going to look at the business and your organization from a different perspective. Because that is also one of the reasons you can see very few of us in HR are able to rise to the board positions or the CEO's positions or what we call the core, because we operate from a support perspective. We don't understand the business. Business acumen is very key. Look at what is the business acumen skills required of a HR consultant. Because from where we sit at a very advantage position. We have what we call the corporate bird's eye view of how the strategies are made, they're implemented in different organizations, not all the departments. And that tells you one of the importance why HR should sit at the table and should sit where decisions are being made or in strategic planning, not in support. The other one, not to oversense, is the client service focus, which you spoke about. You must be able to do the organizational assessment, which brings about the business acumen, and that is where we are going to look at the organization diagnosis. You must be able to have the consulting skills itself. You must know what is consultancy. And I'm sure most of you, they have registered for this course to be able to acquire those consultant skills. And then you must be able to coach and influence others, because consultants is about facilitating. It is about influencing other people from their point of thought to what you have analyzed and done research, and then you come to a common understanding. And for you to be successful as a consultant, you must be able to influence the minds of the others so that they are able to work with you and accept your recommendations, and they are willing to come up with the implementation matrix that they will live with, and it will make an impact in the business. The other thing we need, personal and professional impact. You must be, as an individual, build your competences, build your professionalism so that you can have an impact. You're not just being a busybody, but whatever that you recommend and you go to, you'll be able to analyze the organization and give solutions that are impactful on the business. Of course, accountability. You must be able to take responsibility for all your recommendations and decisions so that once you give these recommendations and they're implemented, you have a sure expectations that the outcome will be what the success looks like for you and also for the organization. We said client focus. It's about them, not about you. Then this one I have mentioned passingly as I was talking about how HR is really important and should be engaged in terms of the business decision making. And I'm not just talking about any decision making. I'm talking about organizational, the heart, the business decision making. And I just read because I think I've mentioned, just to pick in case I forgot something. The first one is effective business strategies rely on the input of a lot of people across many departments. And what is the work of HR? People management. We manage these people wherever they are in whichever department. However, few departments actually have a better eye view of the entire organization like HR does. And then number two, we can say HR professional can see both why a strategy exists and how it has been developed over time and how it is being implemented. And that is how we have that very strategic role of performance management, of performance appraisals, which most of the HR don't like. It is one of the areas in HR that majority of the HR are very fearful about, and also the industry relations, because performance appraisal is about feedback. And we'll find some of us HR, we've only been regulated to the area of performance appraisals. And if I was to critically ask you, what do you do in performance appraisal? Majority of us will just tell me is to ensure that employees do their performance appraisals at the end of the year. And you have this HR assistant who has been designated with this HR role of ensuring that people do their returns at the end of the year. And such returns will be just ticking the boxes and filing that this department has 30 employees and 25 of them have returned their performance appraisal, so you score at this particular percent. But do we take time to go and review these performance appraisals in terms of their effectiveness? The target setting at the beginning of the year. We ensure that people have performance plans that have been cascaded from the organization strategic plan and operational plans. Do the targets of that department reflect the entire overall business strategic objective, or they're just isolated and not talking to each other? Are those targets that have been assigned to individual employees measurable? Are they specific? Are they quantifiable? Are they measurable? Then, have we ensured we have done that as strategic internal HR consultants? So when you come to the appraisal, are we able to check that the individual performance plans and the targets that were well set and meeting the threshold and what I've talked about are the ones that are being measured? And how is the measurement done? Is it reflective of the corporate performance, or we find ourselves in a position where most of the employees are scoring 5s and performing very well, but corporate-wise, we are in the middle or average? That the corporate, we are at 60, 70%, but every other employee in the department is scoring at 100% because maybe there are stakes. I don't want anybody to be put on PIP. I don't want people to miss their bonuses. I don't want people to miss all that. So are we able to walk that whole journey? When the senior managers are sitting with their employees, are we ensuring their performance interviews that are being conducted? Are employees getting objective feedback? And then even after feedback, are we able to capture what we call the performance gaps of those employees and come up as HR, internal consultants, with intervention measures to seal those gaps so that when you go into the next performance phase, we address them early enough to enable, to facilitate the employee to perform better. If we think training and development is one of the interventions that we need to expose these employees, how do we tailor their training, the curriculum of what we are exposing them so that they are really reflective of the gaps that have been identified? That way, if you're able to do that in one aspect of performance management, will becoming what we call effective internal consultancies. Let us not be taking performance management as a game of just ticking the boxes. How do we measure ourselves also as HR to know whether we are having an impact on that business? Of course, even those with huge training budget, one of the biggest concerns of the board and the people in the CISO today is HR. We brag, we have trained 100 employees this year. Every employee has been trained, have been sent to Mombasa, has been sponsored for a course. But they'll always pause and ask you this, with all this budget that we have given you, Rhoda, and all the training, do you ever sit back to reflect whether we're having a return on that investment? Because training cost is an investment. And how are you able to measure whether your training facilitations are having impact on the people that you are training? Do you have tools that you can measure how people are performing, being exposed to this training stimulation and after? And you can tell, my training programs have an impact on people because this number of people have improved in the performance. And we can see that reflected in the organization performance, that last year we were at 60, this year we've been able to move at 65 because we identified performance gaps and we trained people on those areas. The turnaround time for these reports that were being done used to take 2 days, now they're taking 1 day. Are we able to tell from the training and the capacity and the management development courses that we have introduced as an organization, this number of employees have been able to take promotional roles and have been able to grow within the organization because of that training? That way, you can be able to actually justify the impact that you're having on that organization. And like any other professional and an individual, when you leave that organization, you'll be happy to know I impacted on this. Of course, we always say a prophet is never celebrated at home. People may not recognize you. But one thing that I've learned in this journey, the people that you impact on, whether it's that individual employee in HR, it's a life investment that you have done. I'm always surprised that you get calls from people you have interacted with that you could even barely remember their names because it has taken 20 years, 10 years to reach out to them. But whenever you meet them on the corridors as you go for your retreat conferences and along the other duties, they'll stop you and tell you, "Hi, Madam Juliana. I don't know whether you remember me. You had an impact in my life. You interviewed me. You gave me this job. You promoted me. You gave me an offer, and now I've grown to this position." You always feel, or someone once hear your name somewhere and they're quick, "Rhoda, I saw your name somewhere. You are in this and this and this. And I felt the urge to call you and congratulate you and tell you this. And what you don't remember me, you processed my resignation letter." You can imagine even the people, how the people live in an organization in very acrimonious way. They remember how you impacted on them at the time of exit. They remember you as an individual, how you impacted on them at the time of recruitment. That they can even remember, you remember I had this dispute with my boss on performance management. When I brought it to your attention, you had an impact and you changed the way I look at life. And without you knowing, some even are aspiring to be like you. And they'll tell you, "You inspired me without knowing, you mentored me without knowing." That's how you feel as a HR, you are making an impact on people. You may not know it. some of those results may come out 10 years, 20 years down the line. Yesterday, I had a call from someone we worked with, and I think we have not gotten in touch for the last 30 years. Not 30 years, 10 years. I had to introduce myself. We worked with you, this, you impacted me on this, but somehow or other, I've come across your name. In this forum, people were talking about 1, 2, 3, and I said, that must be the only Rhoda I knew. So as a HR, as an individual, as a group, however low your consultancy bit in terms of whether it's recruitment, whether it's performance management, whether it is the disciplinary management as an internal consultant, be one of the people who will stand up and have an impact in the organization. They may not tell you, and also on the people that you are interacting with, because we agreed consultants is about people. And finally, we can say continuously shifting the strategic focus to keep pace with the fast changing external environment. So you are an internal employee, you are an internal consultant, but don't box yourself into what is happening in your organizational culture internally. You must be very deliberate to be thinking out of the box and to scan the external environment to understand what is happening, either in the HR field, how is it evolving, and also in your comparable organization. Benchmark, do your research, see how other people are handling what you are doing, and come up with proposal. Another way, even when you do the employee satisfaction survey, those talks that you have along the corridors are the water point. What are your employees telling you about the people they do lunch with in your neighborhood who works in organizations like yours, comparable, but ensure they are comparable organizations? How do their employees, how do those colleagues they talk with or their social friends experience their employers and their HR compared to what? Don't take offense. Take this feedback. Sometimes we have to go deliberately to go out and seek for that feedback so that you are able to understand how is the environment changing? How is this landscape that we are operating in HR and also in your business for you to gain business acumen? When you go into a consortium and you are discussing with finance, most of us don't like finance because they brag about numbers. But because we close our eyes, that is why we don't have the financial and the business acumen. Those departments that you think they are core, understand their language, so that when you go to their department, in their departmental meeting, you are talking their language, their art, and you are able to understand. And one of the areas you can learn this very fast is when you sit for those interviews. Because you interview in their languages, you have to come up with the question. You must understand the processes and how it feels for that employee working on that organization and that department. So as a continuation, we say some of the reasons why it's so important to engage HR in business decision include on a very high level, goals are always more achievable when there's universal buy-in and alignment across the team. You want to have the buy-in. You don't want to work like a lone ranger. You must collaborate. You must influence your colleague in higher level and the other departments. In HR, we are at the center of everyone. And when you treat people better, you work with them, you collaborate, you help when there is needed, they're likely to buy in your proposals and your recommendations. And they're likely also to open up to you. When you go to your department, you'll be received well and you'll get the buy-in, and they'll give you solutions. You'll mix with your professional expertise and you'll be able to have a win-win. Universal buy-in is an alignment across all the teams and the departments is very critical. Number 2, you must be able to give HR initiative a strategic focus, not routine administrative focus. Look at it with a bird's eye view of the business. And you must be able to prioritize your initiatives as per the needs of the business. One thing we should look at ourselves as HR, we are there for the business. If the business were not operating, we will not be there. So we must be able to prioritize not the needs of what you think HR should do, but what the business needs and they require from you. You are at their service. Number 3, You must be able to understand the strategic goals of your business, and then you come up with HR-centric solutions for them. And those solutions may include things like talent management, the kind of people you attract because of your brand proposition. The people that you bring in and you retain must be the talents that are needed for the business. So even when you come to recruitment, it must be responsive to the needs of the business and must be strategically done. I always say recruitment is not just placing a bum on a seat. It is strategic recruitment because we know these are the competencies. You have come up with a competency framework that has come up to bring the competencies that are required to perform a particular job to the optimal or the required standards and levels. And with those now structures that you have and the competencies that you have identified, you go out to attract, to recruit, and then you also come up with initiatives of how you want to retain the right talent. When I talk about the staff retention, it is not just mere retention, because you could be bragging that my retention rate is very high. But who are you retaining? They must be the right talent. I'll be very sorry for you when you have the wrong people in the wrong jobs who are not performing, and such people are not even likely to leave the organization. Where are they going to? And you're paying them well. You're waiting for retire. So they are not likely to change. They are not willing to change. And they will not go. So your retention figures are very high. But are they the right talent? Who are you attracting in your organization? Must be very strategic. The other point is we must be able to align HR with business strategies that boost employee satisfaction and performance. Maintaining that balance, it's not a mean job. That you want to, there's what the employees look for. So it's like there are two parameters on the two sides of the scale. Employees who are satisfied, who are engaged, who are motivated. And then the other side of the balance of the scale, performance in terms of the business performance. So maintaining that balance, it's an art, and you must be able to look at it, and that calls for what you call that intelligence in terms of the consultants. So we want to ensure that teams are aligned to help the business achieve their strategic goal, and their also personal goals are also being met. So we increase the influence and decision-making powers across the organization. Of course, fast forward, let's look at the steps of this whole consultancy engagement. The process, it is a 6. I've just summarized it. Of course, there are many activities that can go into one or in between, but for this case and for the purpose of this training, I'm able to classify it into 6 steps. The first step is about initiating. How do you initiate the consultancy? Looking for the needs. That now this is the beginning point. I have made my decision, I'll be an internal consultant, or the organization has consulted me, or the department has come to you, they have approached you and they say, we have a challenge, a HR challenge, a management challenge that we need a solution. And they'll tell you, this is what we think the process is, this is what we think the problem is, and we are looking for a solution, and we want you to work with that in terms of coming up with a solution. So the first is the initiation process, how it all began. The second step that you're going to look at is the problem framing. Here is what we call the problem statement phase. What are the clients saying is their problem? And then how do you frame the problem yourself? Because there is what they will have been told by the client, be it be a department or an organization for those people looking externally. What do they say their problem is? And you will find this from the initial or preliminary meetings that you'll have with them. Some could be verbal, you have met, and you say, I think you as a HR expert, this is what we're experiencing in our organization. We don't know how to go about it. Do you do this form of consultation? Are you able to work with us? And are you able to unpackage? And they'll tell you. It could also come in terms of the TOR, the terms of references that you get for the external people. They'll say, we are having this and this, they are itemized, and they'll also give you the expected outcome or what they think should come out of all this consultation engagement. That's what we call the problem statement. Of course, we look at each of them. Then there's what we call the research and the analysis, where you dive now with that common understanding from a high level, maybe from the board, from the senior management, from the CEO, from the head of the department. They have given you all that, and you have been able to really unpackage and see what could be the real issue. Then you go to the field and you collect your data. You can do research. It could be desk study. Look at their organization structure. Look at the management communications mechanisms. You might be able to look at the performance plans and also maybe the performance appraisals and the reviews and the evaluations that have taken place. You can talk to people in terms of focus group, where you have people in different, coming from different departments, coming from the same departments, and you sit on a round table in a focus group and you hear them and you hear, this is what is ailing this organization. It is the way that the department have been structured. It is the management style, is the leadership style. We are not well equipped. All that you can collect. Of course, you can also do this through questionnaires, surveys, where you sit and you have been able to pick what the problem is, and then you ask people, maybe what are the things that we are doing so well? What are the areas that you think we should improve on? What do you think would be the solution to this? Are there recommendations and how we can approach it? You get a lot of that information. And of course, at this stage, you get all manner of the feedback. So you must be able to sit back and analyze that information, take what is relevant, remove what is not relevant. And then after that, you go to the other fourth process we call the ideation. For me, I take it like a brainstorming session, where now you brainstorm all those ideas. This is what people have said. This is what we have found out. This is what we have collected. And then you brainstorm it in various ideas. Of course, people could have picked the same business issue, but given all manner of solution. So you come up with alternatives. If we do this, it will lead into this, it will be better. So that kind of engagement, and you can see it calls for a lot of communication, feedbacking, collaboration from a lot of people. So we'll go through that ideation process and we see how we move through it. After you have gone that, and then you have eliminated and you have isolated the issues, and we say, from what I hear majority of us talking, different stakeholders, I think this will be the best alternative. And then you pick that best alternative. Of course, you do the pros and cons and the cost and benefit kind of analysis to be able to narrow to what you think is the best solution for that client or the business. Then you go into what you call testing, maybe with a small sample, and you say, if we test this for this period, then let's see the outcome. Then you come and say, how do the outcome look like? Then from there, you narrow down and come and say, having gone through whole benchmarking with different validation, we have done the testing, then you come to a decision point, and you should be able to justify your decision point and come up maybe with a presentation to the board or to your client and tell them. At times you might find when you are an internal consultant, of course you do all that with the department, with the unit, probably with take it from one department, then you move it together with the departmental head to what you call the operational groups, like the senior management forum where we sit. Then you want to pitch this idea. You have gone to the field, and here you can imagine the presentation is joint. It is the HR consultants plus the line manager who has issues, and you're all jointly looking for a solution, and you're looking for buy-in from your other senior management and colleagues. And they'll also give their ideas, their reactions, their proposals. You do some few amendments. Then once you pass that stage, probably you'll need to go ahead to the board to seek their approval, because probably their cost implications, their risk implications, and you're seeking that presentation so that you have the approval for implementation. So at this stage, I'm looking at yourself as an internal consultant, being able to give all that story and tell them We also factored in this. We evaluated it, but when you look at the cost, the risk and benefit, it had lower benefits and more risk and more cost. So we rested, or we shelved that because of 1, 2, 3, which was being addressed by this point that, and this option that we are taking because of the turnaround time, the return on investment. So we think among the many options, this will be the best decisions. So you must be able to come with different options and alternatives. And to the very end, probably be able to give that justification. And I look at it the way you pitch your board papers and how you prepare it, and the buying in that comes even from the highest level, because you have evaluated and analyzed and considered all the facts. You could even tell them, we have even gone out and benchmarked with a comparable organization, 1, 2, 3. This is what they are doing, and we have this success story, and that's why we believe, to the best of your knowledge and the best interest of the organization and for the business, this is the best idea. So those are the 6 steps. And at that point, probably I can just pause for any question, any clarification, so that we don't move so fast and then we start losing people. Mercy, again, we will also take a break to look at she said, kindly request you will share the presentation, the notes, and for good reference. Of course, Mercy, at the end of this presentation, I think the admin will be able to release these notes. And what we do, these notes you'll have, as long as you have paid for this training, you qualified for that certification that you'll get. The certificate you'll be able to get from our learning management portal. Also, the notes will be uploaded there and you'll be able to follow. But for me, never be lost in these notes. But they are good reference points. It's good that we go on with the flow of the discussion and we see how we can practically. But those notes, you will give them. That's the only comment I can see. Any questions? Any point of clarification? Any reflections as we move on? The next step, we'll go to elaborate each of these steps. But I think I've been able to explain all that, so we may just quickly run through the slides just to see if there is something that I may have missed out. Any questions, reactions by the participants? It's a good point to review as we go into the details. Are we clear? Are we following? Let me hear your feedback, your reactions. You can put them on the comments. You can unmute your mic. So that we can know that you're on the right track. And are we together? I know majority of you have joined as we began. Have we been able to catch up? Bungei, Collins? Let me hear whether we are still together or if I lost you. Comments on the chat. We are together. Yeah, I can see some reactions. That's fine. So we proceed. Let's look at each in details. And I hope you are able to unmute your mic just as a confirmation. All right. I see those reactions on the chat. So that means we are good enough. So the initiation, just to quickly read through, see what that entails. Just in case they are going on well. Thank you. That's great. We are together. Fine. I'm happy to know that. So I'll try to, we are together, Ruth. Oh, great. Thank you. So the initiation checklist, if you have a checklist, that not all the problems require a consulting process to solve them. There are many other interventions that you can have. So not all of problems that you encounter in HR or as an organization have to be cured through consulting. So that is one of the things that we need to put and remember at the back of our mind. Additionally, the sanctioning or maybe the approval of the consulting inquiry should be very selective. Not every issue that is brought to your desk should be picked for consultation. So there is that selection. There is that going through the sieving and the filtering problem to see whether this is worth putting the effort and the cost, because there is also the manpower cost that goes into it and the resources. Some could maybe be addressed through different intervention. It could be just simple misunderstanding. It could be opinions. So it should be clearly demonstrate that, that there is a business case that needs to be addressed. Because we said in all our activities, we should be business oriented. Is it a business case that can hold, that you can take all the way to bold to justify? Then which can be explained in terms of the strategic, the financial, the risk implication. Would it be a risk in terms of the compliance terms? So those are some of the checklists you put in any activity that you take, which can be articulated in terms of the outcome. What does the outcome look like at the end of the period? Then you must have a very clear business sponsor who have accepted the need for intervention and associated costs and must be among the top business priorities, because you are consulting for your colleagues and the other departments. So when you work with them, of course, where you sit as a HR, you must be able to clearly understand the operational plans of the business, the departmental plans, the issues that is they're bringing to your attention. Is it influencing how they perform in achievement of their specific business objectives? So there must be a business case, and the case must have an ownership. It is not HR coming to pick up this problem and owning it up and making it their issue. It is a business case, and your role is just to facilitate and put your professional expertise into it, and you help them to walk through. So there must be that ownership by the departmental head, by the section head, by the unit owner, because in every unit of functions in an organization, there is what you call a business owner. The duty bearer must take full responsibility, and they must be able to work with you to the end. Your role, like any other external consultant, is it's majorly advisory in nature and facilitative, but they must take responsibility and the full accountability, because at the end of this whole consultancy, there'll be action plans. There will be action points that need to be implemented, because you can come up with very good proposals and very good recommendation, but the effectiveness or the success of what you are recommending actually centrally lie on the implementation. And people must be ready to take the ownership of the implementation, the risk that comes with it, and the ownership of that cost. Because maybe some of these proposals and the interventions that we are proposing, including additional staff, capacity building, it will have a cost implication which must be borne by the business. And when you come to the return on investment, it must be carried by that business owner and the departmental head. So for me, I'll always say it must be top of the 5 business priorities. And you can look at business priorities from a strategic perspective. What are the strategic pillars you have in your strategic plan? What are the strategic objectives that are there in your organization? So it must be responsive to that. That is the initiation checklist. So going fast forward on the next process, or maybe just a continuation, that if you aren't clear, or I think it's just a continuation of that initiation process, and now you go to the problem statement and the problem framing. And when you come to problem statement or framing, we say that if you're not clear about what the problem is, then all the work that may be undertaken by that consultant may be just doing wasted effort. So clients often are quick to identify what they want, because that is their level of understanding. This is what they want. When someone is telling me, I want you to sack, we can even have issues like, I want you to sack this employee. I want, in terms of recruitment, that is also another. Every head of department or director will come and say, in order for me to be able to achieve this performance objective, I'll need you to recruit for me 10 employees. Everybody is asking for more staff, more staff, more staff. So, however, the trick is actually to understand what the organizational really needs. And when the HR is sitting at the strategic planning and the decision, you'll have so much clarity as an internal employee what the business needs. I'll give an example. If your organization is a financial institution, of course, there are those functions that take different targets, and they have been allocated different targets. So from a higher perspective, you are able to understand now this organization is moving from an income or a target of maybe 17 billion, and we have agreed in the next 5 years, we must be able to double that number by 2. You double it to 34 billion. And for you to be able to achieve this, there are those strategic initiatives that every business owners have been assigned to take. So probably you could look in this maybe production department, they have 10 employees. Every employee have been assigned this number of targets, which consolidatively, they are able to yield the 17 million. And probably they are performing at their optimal level and they are fully stretched. But from a strategic perspective where you sat as a HR, you are able to understand our business now is desirous of moving from a point of 17 billion to a double figure of 34 million. And some of the strategic initiative, they said, for us to double this number, if 17 people are, or let's say, if 10 people are bringing 17 billion, they have said an additional staff of 10 will also bring another working within the same conditions and the same optimal level, then they should be able to double that number. So you're coming in as an internal consultant, as a HR, to respond to that strategic need. So you will be able to liaise with that departmental head and agree, for me to meet this target, I need these additional people, and they'll be very clear in their mind, because they're responding to a strategic objective, that these people must be people who are ready to hit the ground moving. So when you're even talking about recruitment and looking at the job specs, they're telling you, Rhoda, I want someone who has worked in this kind of environment. I'm looking for someone with these years of experience. I'm looking for someone who has worked practically in this field, so that they are able, we only have a span of 12 months, they are able to hit the ground and move, and they are able to perform. And they can tell you from the competency framework that you have developed with them, for the competencies that are required for this particular employee in this role, requires to have that. So you have worked with them right from the making of the strategic competencies and the mapping of those positions and the career progression. So they know if you are to hire someone with these competencies and the talent, they are expected from a historical perspective and experience to perform optimally at this level. So when you go to recruitment, they want to be involved in, when you're coming up with the interview questions, they want to be involved even how you do the interviews, so that you're having what you call competency-based kind of recruitment interviewing process to be able to get all that. As a HR, time is also of essence, because you are in that strategic table, you know these targets are due by December. So you'll be very careful before even the beginning of that particular performance period. You want to ensure these people have been recruited, they are on board, and they have been trained, inducted, and they are ready to hit the ground, so that you enable this departmental head to achieve their targets. And once they are happy and they achieve, the organization bottom line will also be smiling, and you can brag and say, I was instrumental in this, and my HR solutions were responsive. Of course, we work in different organizations, some in private, some in financial organizations, others in NGOs, and others in public. This may not work for everyone, because we know there is the approval authority matrix, there is the budget that you desire us to have these people recruited by December to be able to achieve and to be trained, but then we have budget constraints because we have not received our budget allocation. We didn't get this approval for the recruitment. We understand we operate in all that. But he said, We want to work as effective internal consultants because we want to monetize our trade in what we do as HR, so that when we go out in consultants, those are some of the side hustles people embrace and they are able to run with. So that's very clear. So the trick here is to understand, what does the organization really need? It's not what you need as a HR. What does the business, the organization really need? And it's very critical to spend more time here so that you help the client, or maybe the people you're consulting with, your colleagues, understand what is the main root cause of your problem. Could it be, now that we don't have the recruitment budget, even the 10 people that you have are not performing to their optimal level? Could maybe simple things like internal training and training intervention be able to improve the performance of the people, so that if we may not be able to meet the mark of 34 billion in our strategic plan, because we can explain we were not able to get the budget, but we want to see the organization moving a step harder. Maybe we can move from 17 to 20 with the internal resources. Maybe even the people you have, there are people in a finance department, the reports take 2 times the turnaround, there are a lot of error rates. We have people who could mentor them internally. Are we able to tailor internal courses or look for cheap ways of training development where you can come, look for a consultant, tailor a curriculum that respond to those pain points, and then you address, because we agreed there are various interventions, not just training or recruitment. So if you take a lot of time to understand what is the business needs, what is real the problem, what is the root cause, could it be even the people who come in a profession they are leaving? There is so much turnover. Could it be the culture of the organization? Could it be the relationship and the strengths that we have within the department? Then you spend a lot of time. Once you get it right, then the rest of the processes will just flow. Of course, this will involve issues like seeking multiple stakeholders' perspective, hear from the people, hear from the business, talk to those business leaders, talk to the people on the ground, the people who are operational through focus group, understand from them. This is what the director thinks. This is what the head of department thinks. This is where the other senior managers think. But people who are doing the actual work, engage them. Where do you think the problem is? How can we support you? And let them generate this idea. Of course, you should be able to attempt to draft what you think is the proper problem statement from the feedback that you get, and then your own research that you have had, because you can gather this from talking to people in interviews, focus groups, or from other avenues, or even what the board is complaining about, what the senior management is complaining about, what the CEO, your other colleague, what employees are complaining about. And after you are able to draft now what your problem statement and you take it through, then you can draft what you call the arcing purpose and the desired outcome. Why are we proceeding on with this? Yes, we have stated our problem very clearly. We are in agreement. We have a meeting of mind. So what is the purpose? And what are we looking at achieving at the end of this consultancy? So that when we look back, these are the points or the indicators that will show us that we have actually achieved what we desired or we set out to do. Then, of course, you must be able to test your problem statement with trusted advisors and project sponsors. Of course, that is why you have your network. You can talk to people in the network, in other organizations, on how they have approached it, how their organization is working, how they implemented it. What are the success stories? Did they have teething problems? How did they handle it? In hindsight, what is their reflection? You need to know, especially whenever you go to any organization, try to look at what are these comparable organizations? Where are these board of advisors that you can keep on calling, and you find out how have you resolved this, building those HR networks so that you are able to move along with that. Then you go to research and analysis. After you have done all that, then the skills in researching is very critical. You must know how to frame your research questions, whether it is a questionnaire you're drafting, you're going through to do some interviewing. You must be able to frame your questions and structures very well, so that after the data collection, you'll have the right information. What is it that you want to collect? What are the sources of your data? And how do you think that data will help you do your consultants? And after that, you need to do what we call the validation of the results, so that you remove what you don't need and what is more critical, remove the duplications, what is necessary and what is not necessary. And also maybe pack the other information that you pick along, maybe for a different source. But also when this information is very critical, when we come to what we call taking the best alternative and various options that you see you're going to generate, because you can say, we also collected this, we got the feedback from this, but after our analysis, we thought it is not a good alternative because of 1, 2, 3. So it's something that we consider, so that you don't throw away the feedback you got, because you want to have the buy-in and the trust, so that if you have another engagement, then you'll have the support from the other people. Then in your doing research, ask a lot of questions. Question, brainstorm the results, look for more feedback from your team of colleagues. Then you say, have you ever considered this? Do you think that is working? What else can we do? You have to have those, what we call the active listening skills, the communication, so that you're able to articulate that. Then after during the research, you must analyze your data to get the indication of how the others have solved the problem, how the comparables, how comparable are you? Because whenever you go to a research, you must look for comparable organizations. And that is why you must be able to understand the external environment. It is not all organizations are similar to yours. This is one of the mistakes most of the HR does when they go for, especially those in private, when you go for salary surveys and structure. You want to compare with yourself with this organization because the employees are happy, it is the dream organization to work for, but is it comparable to your organization? And this is where business acumen comes in. When you look at the comparability, you must look at the management philosophy, your environment that you're operating on, maybe the size of the organization, the number of employees. You must be able also to look at the market segment they are operating on, their geographical location, so that you are comparing an apple for an apple. I've seen people seeking data in terms of the salary survey, and probably if you look at the organization they are coming from and what they are benchmarking, they are not even comparable. You'll find like an officer in grade 6 of their organization cannot even, let's say, if it's a smaller organization, the salary of their grade 1, let's say even the CEO salary, it is not comparable to what you're trying to compare. That could be a salary of a grade 9 in another organization. Because if you look at maybe their asset base, their financial statements, they are beyond any comparison. So you must be able to pick the organization, the same industry, the same operations, the same size in terms of the asset, the income, and what they are generating, the employees, and what is their market segment. What are their legal framework and their areas of operations? There must be comparable. And then you also need to consider issues. Do you need to be distinct to stand out as an organization? Do you have that laxity, the leeway? What is the management philosophy and what do you stand out? So those are some of the things you consider. And if no one has solved the problem probably before, are there substitutes if you cannot actually get a proper fit? And what are the risk implications? What are your level of your preparedness in terms of absorbing this risk? What is the cost implications in terms of affordability, sustainability in the long run? And then you also must be able, what is the management attitude, the reception of what you are going to analyze? All that must be considered, because we understand there are different leadership styles, there are different risk appetite to a solution. When you go out for research, make sure you consider all those parameters. And then ideation, which I said I could compare to brainstorming. We are saying here we want to search and look for the best solution. the best, or among the many alternatives you have, what is the best solution for these consultants. So here, ideation is all about searching for solutions. Is something that is typically inspired by examples of either what the other organizations have done, the industry practice, the technology, your level of organization preparedness, and mostly you benchmark with comparable studies if you're doing a desk kind of research. And the best way is to create opportunities for team members that you're working with. Remember, this is a consultative process. To give them an opportunity to present their ideas, let them argue out their pros and cons, and then you must be very clear what success looks like at the end of the day and what you are likely to measure on that. So it is very critical to evaluating these ideas. Look at the cost benefit, the pros and cons, the practicability, how do we measure, and bringing it to your organization in time of tailoring it. Then you also need to have a way you can test the proposed solutions with trusted advisors, both internally and external. Ensure you always have your board of advisors that you can always bounce your ideas to at whatever level. Could be people in very senior management outside your organization, but of course, being clear about the confidentiality and also the data that you're sharing. And this is where now coaching, mentorship, and mentoring comes in very critical, because you want to see people have made mistakes, people have implemented, but how have they handled it? They bounce it through someone. Then the final consolidations of the proposed solution, which is believed to be of benefits. And we say it is a consideration what you believe, that you, beyond any reasonable doubt, you believe this is the best solution. Of course, it can, at some point, it may turn out not to be the best, but in the best of your knowledge and having considered all that, the implications, you believe this is the best solution. And why we always want to believe is because we want to be ready and open for other people's opinion, their adjustments and their proposals, so that the adjustments that comes along the way as you do your presentation can also be incorporated, so that people can have that accountability and also ownership of the process. And why it is preferred over other alternative proposals or solutions that were considered by the team. Of course, testing is what we called, are you able to test maybe with a sample to see how it has operated? Plan and then execute a small-scale experiment to test. This is the testing phase, to test the best ideas, to prove the solutions and also the efficacy where possible, and then share the results of the experiment with the stakeholders, and then modify and make adjustments where required. And finally, the final stage that we looked, it's the decision point. So now you are at the point of making the decision, making your board presentations, and seeking such approval. And we say consulting projects should always be working towards a particular conclusion. It must come to an end, and it is naturally the point of concept that has been converted into an operational reality that can be tested, and now we want to operationalize, and this is definitely the final stage, as I said. So we need to develop a very high quality board level presentation, because probably, and most of the time, this is the approval stage. The buy-in, once you go past the board, then you can go and implement the decision, and then you monitor and review. And ideally, when you do, I'm sure this talks to how you do your papers and board presentations. For those who've been in those positions of doing board presentation, you don't want to tire people with a lot of words. So you have to have that one-page structure. You say, what is it that you're looking for? What I'm seeking approval of 7 billion to do this. Then what is your financial implication, the risk, what are the many options that you had, how you are, and then the final decision and why you believe all that in a like 1-2 page kind of outline. So outline the list of implementation risk and the mitigation, the financial implications, and maybe the budgeting, whether you have you foresaw this, you have budgeted, and you can say we already budgeted for this in our other financial year, and we have the funds, but this is how now we are seeking approval for that. Then, of course, you must have a plan, prepare for execution roadmap. Maybe you're going to do it in phases, and they're associated with budget and for approvals. Who are the duty bearers in terms of the action plan? who are the people who are responsible for that implementation. Of course, finally, you must be able to have a plan of how you're going to demobilize the task force and the team that are having this project. That is the closure of the consultancy. Moving on to the next process. Any question at that point? I think we're moving well. We've been able to cover the first 4 items. So I can say now the rest, they are short. And I think we have also spoken to them largely. So we will just go through the slide because of time. Any question, if I may pause at that point? We still have about 45 minutes, considering the time we started. I know we are supposed to stop at 12, but I'm sure we will be able to move on well. Any questions so far? Any reactions? Before we move to the next stage of diagnosis, of course, diagnosis mostly it's about the organization. It's like dissecting the whole organization to see the readiness and to see what we need and that kind of what the problem is. And this actually will also speak to the problem statement. Any question so far? Reactions? Let me look at the charts. We are cool to continue. All right. So we are okay. Let's proceed. So diagnosis. We used the analogy earlier, analogy of a vehicle, where we said mechanical diagnosis. For those of us who've had this challenge and you have required to look for the services of a mechanic who have tried to do a diagnosis of your vehicle and what has come out of it. At times they are unable to handle it from where they are and they have to look for more solutions. So the same things happen to an organization. And much of the organization diagnosis, we will come when you're looking at analyzing the organizational effectiveness. So the way we look at an organization, it is just with the anatomy of a human body. It is a whole structured process with different systems, processes, and structures in place, all put together to make an organization. And using the human body analogy, if one part of your body is not operating effectively, or it's ailing, or it's in pain, it affects the entire system of your body. Let's say you have hit your foot against or you've broken your leg. Of course, it affects your entire mobility, the pain, the way you are able to effectively carry out your daily jobs. So the same things happen to an organization. And someone talked about the organization culture. If there is organizational culture is something that is very sensitive, and that is why we always recommend for you, if you want to do a culture audit, it is always recommended that you use an external consultant to be able to walk with you through the journey, because it touches on very sensitive issues right from the governance, the organization structures, the reporting line, interpersonal relationship and relationship between them, among employees, between employees and the management and their line managers. It may also affect the structures in terms of which department reports to which department and how. And mostly in government, you'll find most of the HR functions reporting to a finance person. Of course, the corporate services, which may be manned by an accountant or any other, because few of the HR have been able to rise to that corporate services because of maybe the financial acumen that is required, because finance report, but of course it's an administrative role, it's a leadership role, or what you need is the coordination. So those are some of the things that may affect the effective and efficiency delivery of the services. So that kind of diagnosis, we need to look at, is it the leadership style? Is it the management philosophy? Is it resistant to change? Is it the non-respect of professional opinion that it may affect the whole operations of that organization? So when you talk about organizational analysis, which is also called organization diagnosis, this is what we are talking about. It is just a method of pinpointing the root cause of the problem that we are being experienced in the entire client's business or the organization. And you'll find all those examples that we have talked about, they are actually affecting people. And some of these issues are not outspoken. They are normally the underlying issues and not what we see as symptoms. So that is why it's very critical to do a whole diagnosis. Again, another area that is very sensitive is this organization diagnosis. But for you, again, even as you're doing your recruitment, you're doing your internal consultancies in terms of organization review and whatever assignment that be allocated and you might decide, you must come from that point. Understand the organization culture, the history, the journey they have walked. What are the desirable? Are people responsive and open to those ideas? What kind of leadership do you have? Because the leadership you have at any point in an organization dictate how well you work as a HR. There are times you might find yourself, you have very supportive board, very supportive leadership, and your projects will just move. There are times you might find yourself in a situation where the environment is not enabling and is stifling every effort that you want. That is the reality on the ground. Let's not pretend that it's all rosy and working. So there is need for that diagnosis. It tells you what is it that you want to do. What is it that the effort will just be futile? That understanding is very good. So similar to a medical doctor would conduct a physical examination, run some lab tests before making a diagnosis, it is important for business to collect data that will allow objective decision-making on how to improve people's strategy. You could look at, do you have baseline surveys that have been conducted in the past? Do you have customer satisfaction survey, which is a rich source of data for even for HR? Do you have employment engagement satisfaction surveys that have been done in the past? And what is the narrative? What is the story like? It gives you a foundation on where you want to start. Are there efforts that have been made in the past that have succeeded? What was their approach? Are there data that have failed? Why did they fail? And what you can do differently. Number 3, your clients should be proactive in this diagnosis, whether the departmental heads, the functional heads, or who has requested for those services. Rather than respond to existing problems in their organization, they should seek first to get ahead by proactively collecting and measuring critical people data so that you are able to understand the whole story and the narrative behind it. And we say in consulting, diagnosis for organization improvement and change have 3 critical features. The first one is the process. How does the process look like? The next is modeling, and then the methodology that you're going to apply. So when you come back to processing, we say working with members of an organization to plan a diagnostic study, how to administer it and to provide feedback for the findings. So what process are you going to take in undertaking these consultancies? It's very good that you come up very clear that probably we need to seek data, do interview, have focus group with the senior managers, with the staff, maybe people from different departments. You need to have a neutral task force, which is borrowed from different expert areas. Then you come up to discuss a particular item because they'll have an independent and a neutral value, rather than maybe picking a department or maybe a focus group from one department. Even when you come up with the formulation of structures and the HR policies, of course, you'll be tempted to look for people who have similar mind with yours, more people from the HR department, people who have worked in HR department. But it's always, when you come up with that team, the cross-functional team, what are some of the things you look for? Maybe you need someone from the legal, so that they can look at the legal foundation, the frameworks that are beyond what you can look at. so that you are able to have that kind of compliance check. They'll be able to come and tell you maybe beyond the statutes and the constitutions that we have, are we able to reference to other developments that are coming out of maybe the judicial pronunciation, the case laws that maybe they are aware and you have not come across. Someone from risk and audit in their risk work, what is it that they have done? Because they have been able to do a diagnosis of that. So come up with your team that is cross-functional, that you think they'll add value to what you're doing. That's what the process is all about. You agree? Of course, you do a circular that we are about to collect this data, and this is what, so you don't cause panic. Then how do you administer? Who administer? Is it on basis of an anonymity, or do you want people to actually indicate who they are? Then after you clearly agree on the process and on how to get the feedback and how to analyze, because of course when you do that, people expect to get some form of feedback. You go to how we model. Of course, when you come to consultancy, they normally use what you call the conceptualization or the generalization process, where you come up with big general ideas to look at what are the underlying issues, then you go into narrowing down into what the specific. So using models to frame your issues, guiding the data gathering, identify the organization conditions which are underlying, organize feedback. And we say that a model consists of maybe what is the purpose of this consultancy? Issues like how do you want to structure it? Who will be the lead project? How is the leadership? How is the leadership even in the whole organization? How do people relate and departments relate to each other? Are there rewards and sanctions to anything that is done in the organization? Could that reward be reinforcing? Is the sanction prohibiting or serving the preventive measures? Are there helpful mechanisms that you can incorporate or that they have been put in place? What is the general attitude towards change and what you're likely to process? That's what you call the conceptualization of the model that you come up with. And finally, the model, that is the methodology. Basically, what are the techniques of the data collection? What are your sources of data? Do you want to go for maybe even what we call published data or surveys that have already been done? If we are talking about the salary surveys, how do you come to analyze so that you analyze and tailor it to your needs of the organization? And how do you summarize your diagnostic data? So that is the diagnosis. And finally, we can say the consultants conduct a diagnosis to understand the nature and the cause of the problem or the challenges initially presented by the client, because we said the client will tell you, just the way you go to a hospital, mostly you go to a doctor and you tell them, I have a headache, I've not been sleeping well, I have a fever, but the underlying issues that are there. So that is what the client on the first instance will tell you about it. And then you want to identify additional organization programs, maybe the opportunity that you'll pick along the way, and then you seek the ways to solve these problems and improve the organizational effectiveness. So that is what I'll say about organization diagnosis on a very high level. Of course, when you do other courses like the certified HR manager certifications course that we offer, you will go now more in depth in terms of what you call the organization diagnosis and see different models that you can approach. So those are some of the courses that you can look at when the academy offers them, and you can look at it. Then let's look at what is the role of an internal consultant to management on HR issues. Mostly it's in two big responsibilities. First, we said your work as an internal consultant is to give the real-time tools. Because you are a HR expert, you can come up with tools, the templates like the competency framework, talent management, succession plans, how you can come up with training needs analysis, the implementation and operation of others. So first is to provide the tools and the resources that will be able to help diagnose do the diagnosis of the organization issues. You can help the people come up with the interview questions, how to structure, how to design, and also to deliver solutions to improve the organizational effectiveness. Here we said we are looking at improving the effectiveness of the organization. So that is the first biggest leg. The second leg, we said we are facilitative in nature to offer our facilitation. So as a consultant, you facilitate the ongoing development of internal consulting skills. Of course, once you rise to an expert in consultation, you don't want to be working alone. You also need to build capacities within the organization. If it's in performance management, you need to build the capacity of the other line managers on how the targets are set, how we do the appraisal, how we evaluate, how we engage the employees, how they interview them, how to use the tools that have been developed by HR. Because I can tell you for free, most of these people who appear to be very technical in the core, they even hardly understand the performance management tools. And that is why when you go to performance management errors, the biasness that comes into it, people just push it because HR has written that email. It is this time of the year that we need to do our appraisals, and we give a timeline. We need these reports by 12th December, by noon, by the end of the day. And all what they do is to check the box. And when we come to HR, we have these big box files. Again, we tick the box. We delegate to the lowest employee, which is a HR assistant, and it's just procedural technical. So for us, we need to build the capacity so that people in their own respective areas, they become our HR consultants and advisors and implementation of our policies. So that's on a very high level. So primarily, two key responsibility. First is to analyze the organization, identify any issues. Sorry, I should be on slideshow. Sorry for that. First is to analyze an organization or identify any issues or areas where they could improve. Next is internal consultants look for ways to improve things such as the employee satisfaction, profits. Is it about the culture change? Is it about organizational efficiency? And they may also do this by studying the systems currently in place, interviewing other employees and gathering. And number two, we said they are responsible to develop and implement solutions to the problem they discover. And we say internal consultants may develop new systems on how the company operates. They may introduce new technology and making personal recommendations to that end. So the other roles that HR, which are scattered and can be borrowed across on a very high level, not exhaustive, we could say there are specific roles is as an internal consultant, the HR practitioners or the HR expert that we are, functions like any other external consultants. They work along with their colleagues that who are their clients in this case in analyzing problems, in doing the diagnosis and proposing solutions. They're also involved in the development of HR processes, policies, system, and also the process of consulting in the organization. They give a lot of input to that. Then we say HR specialists have a monitoring role. Once this has been approved, it has been implemented, I think it is your interest that we monitor how the implementation is, the success, see where reviews can be done, any adjustment that can be done in terms of formulating those the processes. And of course, the employment rules and the policy and how they're impacted, because they ensure that policies and procedure comply to the legislations in whatever it's being implemented, they don't offend any legal provisions, and that they're implemented correctly by the line managers. Of course, HR practitioners may act as the guardian of organization values when it comes to culture and also concerning other people. And let us not, again, be comfortable in just being the guardians and the custodian. I always tell my participants when you go for physical training, the biggest danger HR we have is a lot of people have intruded in this industry of HR because it has become very easy. All what you need to do is to become CHRP. How long does it take you? The six, you can take you within 1 year, 2 years, and you become a HR professional like any other. So you'll find the people, even in the consultants, as I said, majority of them have had decades in their other fields of operations. And now, finally, they are retiring at HR because that is the richest area of consultants out in this field. So what they need to do, get the HRM registration, the consultation, They don't have to have those degrees and the masters that you have dedicated yourself to, and they're out there. Go speak the language of the business, and they're able to do. They're the statisticians, the economists, the accountants, the lawyers that have specialized in this. These are the people who have now populated this field. And know what you need? Register for these courses, have the CPD, renewal of your license, set up your farm, and they're up and flying so much. So let's also try, when I keep on talking about business acumen, move from being the routine administrative HR to now business partnership. Be at the heart of the business at the center to know what they are. Take those assignments that comes in so that we don't find ourselves that in the near future, we are becoming relevant and irrelevant. And just maybe to provoke you, how many of us have tried to intrude into the other fields so that we combine, because we can effortlessly do HR. You've been there for the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years for some of the people who have retired into it. What else can you do so that you can be able to combine with what you're doing in HR and make a business case? You remember we said any consultancy must be a business case. So how do you make a business case if you narrow your focus only on HR? Develop yourself in other areas. Understand how to analyze those financials, finance for non-finance. Understand, intrude into the other people's industry. Then you can become an all-rounder HR. And when you get bored with HR, you can easily, we want to build these HR who are agile and they can do any other business. That is on just a personal challenge. So the other role is collaboration. We said we sit at the middle with a bird's eye. The key of the workplace success could finally determine why business fail or great talents leave the organization. Let's collaborate with other departments. We are that fine thread that finds the entire organization in terms of the talent management, business leadership. We are that glue that holds the whole institution together. Another one is consultant is nothing more than understanding the needs of the business, and not just understanding, is understanding it in great depth. So we may know a lot on the service, but let's take our time, concentrate, and go into the depth of it to have a deep understanding. You find the moment you go to the senior leadership positions in HR or any other hierarchy, your HR now profession maybe even ceases to be of much consideration. For those people who have attended high-level interviews, they can agree with me that you might only find 1 or 2 questions that relate to HR, and very basic questions. Most of the questions will be on leadership, your industry knowledge, and the knowledge of the organization that you want to join. They want your understanding of whether you understand how this organization came to be, what their mandate is, what their legal framework is, what their stakeholders. We said in HRBP that now we are moving from, today I'm training about being an internal consultant. HR is moving from internal consulting to external consulting, from internal stakeholders to you engaging with the other stakeholders and being out there in the field dealing with activities. Yesterday, I was calling one of the organization NEC to follow up on some background checks. I'm bringing my consultants, and the majority of the people who helped me in the archives and the records were actually not in the office. Why? They're out in the fields. We all know it's the examination centers and marking period. So all of them have left what they do on an everyday. They're out there at the core, at the heart of what NEC is doing at this point. That must be you. When your organization is going out there, CSR, sensitization of your mandate, you must be in those groups as you grow. So again, we say in creating a culture, so that's why understanding the great needs in depth, understand it, know what the stakeholders are doing there. Again, we say in creating a culture of internal consulting, we help break down the invisible wall created by the departmental silo thinking and mentality. We are not here to
to fight about the superiority of some dockets and departments. We need to break those walls. That's why we need to be there, sit with them, understand them. One time you'll need their buy-in. In the processes of mopping up communication channels, so that even when you're rallying people, I need people to do interviews, I need people to do this, people will be happy to work with you as HR and helping to understand deeply the challenges and the functions of their colleagues, because we can feel their pain and where they're coming from. Try to understand. Let's not cast them away, thinking they don't know what they're saying, they are too demanding. Let's hear their side of the story and where we are coming from. So let's look at providing guidelines, guidance and consulting with other business functions as we collaborate. And we say HR's consultants provide advice and guidance to business and ensure that organization human capital serves the best interest of the company. In addition, we say by creating and implementing customized HR strategy, responsive, tailored. Don't just take another organization HR strategic plan, copy, paste. Make it your own, tailor it, customize it to your needs and the nature of your organization. They work to ensure organization is effectively utilizing its human capital. We're working at optimal performance and also efficiency levels. And we also say that HR consultants are great communicators. They should be great communicators and have in-depth knowledge and understanding of what all entails in human capital. It is always good to start from a HR generalist so that you understand the whole cycle of HR, that you have dealt right from improvement to the exit, the talent management, which is the buzzword, productivity, the performance, the engagement of that industry. Don't shy away from any bit of HR. Do the entire cycle. You'll find then when you get bored with all that, then we want to start now joining the centers of expertise. You pick one item of HR that you want to specialize, your business partners, and they're out to operationalize your functional and high level thinking and also the business processes. Just to continue, I hope you can still get me well. I can see an indication that my internet is unstable, but let me know if you lose me. So we say they consult for businesses on a number of different areas within the field of HR. We mentioned a bit of them, and we'll continue. These are just not an exhaustive list, but areas we can consult and we can think about it. And I always tell HR, as you do those internal consulting, as you work with those internal consulting, beside facilitating them, please work with them. Don't over-delegate these consultants' work. When a consultant comes to your organization and you want to delegate to a junior officer, please ensure that you get. Those are the tools that you'll gather when you come out to the marketplace. You will know how they do their proposals, how they do their quotations, how they do their reporting. My friend, that is very high and good inventory for you in future. It will come in handy. So working with business leaders to define the company HR issues and goals and requirements, because this is what you can do for your retirement. These are things that you can do on your side hustle. The other thing is developing and implementing HR models. Challenge yourself beyond what you do. There are many things a lot of HRs are doing out here, and probably you've not had an opportunity to practice them. You only hear it from other people. Always go beyond your comfort zone for your own personal investment and benefits. So developing and implementing HR models and strategy for different types of businesses, because today you are in government. Tomorrow you might find yourself in an insurance industry. You might find yourself in an insurance industry, which is more because as you grow, you want to look for more challenges, more opportunities, more payment. You must be able to package yourselves as that HR who is agile and can work to any industry and can easily move. Recruitment, selection, the right candidates of the vacant. Of course, the culture may not allow you, because maybe the people and the leadership philosophy is we are a social outfit and we bring our relatives and this is it. But what is that is acceptable and professional and strategic in the field? Understand it. put your policies to encourage that and always endeavor to do that. You know, we may not succeed all the time, but still we grow. Producing and implementing trainings and development programs for employees. Ensure you own your training needs and training development program. Then managing performance levels by administering as appraisals and setting goals. I said in performance management, the target setting is actually the central call. That is how performance appraisals rise or fall or succeed on how you set the targets. Actually, performance appraisal is very easy. It is the easiest thing you can ever do. But the biggest challenge, it is setting of specific, measurable targets that are cascaded from the needs of the business and business objectives. If you get that right, how you formulate the KPIs, then you're home and dry. Actually, I always say the hardest thing is knowing what to measure. It's not measuring. Measuring is just like taking a tape measure. But knowing what to measure, it is actually the beginning and where you should put a lot of effort. And I always encourage HR, when departments are setting up their individual work plans and the targets at the beginning of the period, that is where you can start your internal consulting by being there at the department, working with the department, sitting with their meetings to help them come up with game-changing KPIs. Attend their meetings, work with them, review, give the feedback, enhance the way they do it. Performance appraisal will be welcome and it will be very easy for you. Ensuring HR programs are in compliance with the current employment laws and regulations and the entire the legal framework, which starts all the way from the constitutions, the various legislations that are there, be it the HR or any other that talks about the fair processes, the principles of natural justice, and also the upcoming the judicial presidents, which really have actually shaped how we do HR that may we not find their provisions in the statutes. Then developing and revising and implementing HR policies and procedure. I can tell you my first assignment in terms of the consultants was making of HR policies and procedure, where a colleague came in. Actually, this is my former colleague, the late Willie Kimani. You've heard about the lawyer who was killed along the line of duty. It's all, and he called me, Rhoda, I have some 5 of my colleagues who have a startup. We have a funding from World Bank. They want to start up their startup firm, but they're looking for this competent person who can do for them HR policies. I know that you can do right from your desk and your weekend. Can you do that? Can I exchange your contact? And there, my first contract came in, and I was able to make my first 50,000 in consultancy. That didn't affect my work. It didn't affect anything I was doing. So that you do it. There's a lot of HR consultancies you can just do behind your desk in the evening, during your leave period, at the end of the day. You start small until you are able to do that. So do it in the office, do it so well that you also come and do it as a hobby on the other side. Resolving, don't wait until you lose your job and then you start thinking about consultancy. So that is why this training is very critical. Let's be very practical. Resolving any issue that company might have, which may differ from time to time, it's very good for us. This is just a picture. I said I normally like to use pictorials. Pick anything. Organization effectiveness, competency framework, organization effective facilitation, building competency framework. Have you ever thought about what is a competency framework? How do you develop one? How do you derive? How do you link it to your career progression and guidelines and the JDs that and job analysis you do? Ensure that you have that inventory. Performance management can be an area that you just want to perfect your art in and do. Training, like the way we are doing, then we'll always tell you the academy has a lot of training opportunities that you can always talk to the academy and tell them, I feel I'm very good in performance management. I feel I'm very good in policy formulation. Can you give me an opportunity to train? And let me tell you one secret with training. As much as you feel like I'm impacting knowledge and you think you're following up, I equally learn a lot from the participants. So that is how you hone your skills, you master the art, you do it with passion, and before you know it, in hindsight, you say, you find yourself asking, actually, was this the path this training was taking? Some of us, we even do it for fun, for passion. When you're available, 3 hours, sit with these people, exchange knowledge. It could be a niche you want to pick. It could be performance management, conflict resolution. Of course, you've heard about alternative dispute resolution, ADR. There's a whole certification course that when you do that certification course, which I think only cost about 32,000, 34,000, which now they're even being offered online, you become a certified mediator. And once you're certified by that institution, then you join the panel of that, and your name can even be put in the panel of certified mediator with the judiciary. And you can say, I'll go and do mediation. And because I'm so good in employees relation industry matters, I'll be registered under the industrial employment matters. Of course, there are different mediators who deal with family issues, property issues, but now in these many decades of HR, I want to perfect and do this conflict resolution. Issues of individual effectiveness, if you want to become a coach, a mentor, employee relations, coaching and mentoring, business strategy, organizations change, succession, workforce planning, strategic HR, may it be work environment, we talked about the health and safety, the ISO, talent management. Do you want to concentrate on organizational design, where you go and say you want to do the review of the organization structure, make recommendation. Then when you make your recommendation, you also make other recommendation that I think the organization is missing in terms of the succession plan. They don't have a career progression guideline. And we propose that you also undertake that. Then you get another job. You want to concentrate on mergers, acquisition, when organization comes, and team's effectiveness, culture change, morale. There are all those different dockets that you can do that. So now we're almost at the tail end, and having done all that, probably you might rub some feathers along the way of the finding might be very acrimonious, and you might find the person even who hired you to do this or who requested you is actually the problem. On a very high level, let's look at how do we give honest feedback to internal clients that we live with, we'll continue working with, and we want that continued positive working environment and also support because you look for them. So in HR, we talk a lot about internal customers who are our colleagues, which usually is to refer to senior managers, line managers, employees, and also the board, because we sit in those board. Therefore, our feedback could be either to these parties mostly. So how should we approach our objective feedback? First, we must be able to be very objective and give specific examples. If you find out that in our research, in our interview, in our focus group, this is what we gathered, what came out, you should be able to give that and back it with examples. For example, when I went to specific department, the finance department, most of the issues they were raising are this. And this has been reflected in their performance report because you can see most of the people have done this and this. When you go to records department, you will find we are not able, documents are getting lost, confidentiality it's hard to retrieve the data because maybe being the records department, the management philosophy has been people who has gone through the disciplinary process, who are not working, who are on PLP, we end up transferring to them to record departments. So even the capacity of the people we have don't have the records management capacity, they're just administrative employee, and that is why we are not able and we're having these issues. So you are very objective, you have specific examples that you can say, and we went ahead and analyzed the competencies and the qualification of the people in that department, and we found them that were not adequate and they were missing, and we make these proper recommendations. Here, you are just giving very objective with specific, and we recommend we need to correct, maybe come up with a training, or we recruit people, or we transfer, or we do mentoring, or we do job shadowing. Very objective with very specific examples. Number 2, help them increase their self-awareness. I've used the case of performance management. A lot of people do what they do because they are not even aware. We have what we call our black spots. If I was to use the Johari window, there's what people know about you. There's what you know about yourself. How do I perceive myself as Rhoda? I think I'm very competent. I'm very strong in this. I think I'm know-it-all. But how am I experienced by the other people, by employees, by my other colleagues? Same case to the line managers. So in such a scenario, as consultants, we need to create that self-awareness, but in a very subtle and very supportive way. Very gently, subtly, so that we lead people to see who they are and how they are being experienced. So we say one can expect that bad managers will tend to receive feedback in a very bad way because it's not palatable. Nobody wants to be corrected, including me and you, because we think we are the very best. So it is only by making them aware of their blind spot in a good way that you can help them to bring out the desired change. Of course, increasing their level of self-awareness is a must. One approach we could do this is doing it gently, subtly, and ask questions that prompt them to reflect on their action. Would you remember what went on when this employee complained about their performance appraisal? What were the circumstances? What happened? Or maybe bring a very positive case, the high star performance. What is your experience when you're doing appraisal of this person and this? So if you are to think about it from a different perspective, how would you look at it? Are there areas we can improve in a very supportive way? Because also you are not there to break people. You want to facilitate and build them. Number 3, frame your feedback as coming from a place of care, a commitment to the company, the team, and also this particular manager who is a bad manager. You are telling them because you care and you want to tell them in private. So rather than from a place of anger, reaction, this is what people are saying, this is what you ought to do. So if the manager experiences, as you say, we are in this together, we can work this together, you can always, you can count on me, instead of perceiving me versus you type of a negative dynamic, it will be much better received and help to keep the relationship intact, because here we are trying to keep the relationship intact. Number 4, share your feedback in private. We cannot re-overemphasize this. Most people receiving negative feedback is shame-inducing experience. Always give your feedback in private in a very supportive way. Tell your manager what you need. Tell your manager what you need rather than what they should do. I need you to work with me, or you support me in this process so that you can make, not that you should do this, you should, rather than it's my way or the highway. And tell them what they could do better rather than what they are doing wrong. Me, I'm thinking if you are to take this approach, it will be much easier, or probably this, what you think they should do better rather than what they are doing wrong. Don't be just wrong on the negative. Then address them with respect. One thing that I always tell people, whether you're right or you are very senior or you're in a very powerful position, one thing you should never stripe of your people. Beat the lowest people from your cleaners, your support. Never strip anybody of your dignity. And you remember me for this. Address every person you interact with respect. As I said, you never know how that employee you will meet in their next phase of life, or what will come. I told you, I gave you an example, a case of an employee called me and he had to jog my mind, where we met, how he resigned, how we left each other, and he left for a better job and we have never spoken. And he called me, said, Rhoda, I thought I owe you this. And I was really shocked. Did I even deserve that? That you're calling me with very critical information, very helpful, just because you had my name mentioned somewhere and you have all this feedback. I can't even tell you where he comes from. And He was probably a very junior employee. And you may think, huyu atanisaidia. Me, I'm the boss. I sit in a senior office. Mi ndio kusema, I'm the recruiter. I'm the one who hires. But that special. One time I also went to CID to take my good conduct. And the person who was taking my fingerprints that I was chatting, she told me, by the way, I know you. From this name, I know you. I asked them, really? From where? You used to work with my spouse. And I asked, who is your spouse? And I can tell you, the spouse was one of our cleaners, support, the tea girl who used to serve us tea. But by seeing my name, he knew my name from the spouse. So I wondered, because as much as we don't want to agree, people discuss as they're taking tea, even in their bedrooms. How are they experienced? Address every person with human dignity and never strip off anybody their dignity. It's human. It's a fundamental right. How they feel you after you leave. Every interaction you make. Most people aren't aware of their negative impact. If you address them with respect and assume that they can improve, they will hear the feedback even if they don't like it. Use facts and feeling to discuss how they are impacting on the team and the results. Number 6, focus on what motivates them. There is always something that ties you. In fact, if you were to sit here the whole day and discuss with each other, there is always a common. You will find you went to the same primary school with Rhoda. You went to the same high school. You went to the same university. I know a friend of your friend. I worked in a place you worked. I go to the same church. Your child go to the same school with me, your child. My friend lays in your neighborhood. There is always a common thing with every one of us. My sister was in your high school. My sister was in your campus. So focus on what? Look at what is it that we can discuss that has common. Frame your feedback on what cares about rather than why you want them to change. You could even start from even the discussion. By the way, how is your daughter high school going on? You're trying to ease them. They feel that you care. Give feedback based on action. Should be given based on the action and not on the managers personally. Focus on the facts and be specific. Don't use qualifiers such as, you always do this, you never get it right, you never do this. Be clear on the action you will, where they drop the ball, wish them to take, not who you want them to be, basically. I'm just trying to rush because I know in time some of us, we are also multitasking and working, but we are not far. So we are almost at the tail end. So again, make them feel trusted. Showing the client that you believe they have what it takes in terms of both competencies and good intention creates a safe space and reduces the natural desire to defend themselves, feeling threatened. Of course, present tangible facts and offer support, not what you had. Let's not work on hearsays, on what people are saying. Base it on tangible facts and offer support to work with them. Presenting tangible facts about the impact on the team and projects reduces the focus on subjective interpretation. Instead, it helps to raise the manager's awareness around how they influence on the team. Then offer your support and help create the solution and keep your word, work with them. We are the tail end. How do you make now recommendations of all that hard work that you've done and all the collaboration, all the management of giving the feedback, analyzing the options? How do we now package it? Creating an understandable, how you make recommendations. I said, I'm thinking you're at this level. Now you're going for approval to the board. So you create an understanding presentation with data points. Let your presentation be data backed. It is critical to frame recommendations for clients in a way that demonstrate quantifiable business impact. How is it impacting of the five key priorities we talked about? Meaning, by implementing this particular recommendation, what will happen to the business? Management wants to know exactly what your recommendations entail, why you believe it will be impactful to the business, how will it move our business, how is it impacting of the strategy, what is the desired result, and how do you plan to go about it to get there? You should be able to articulate that. And then you must be able to know your audience and align your presentation to business goals. Who are likely to be in that sitting? What do they want to look like? You know, the director of finance, the chair of the finance committee will sit in that meeting, and their biggest worry will be cost implication. Rhoda, is this affordable? Is this sustainable? He will ask, have you budgeted for this money? How much? What is the financial implication? You see, there is an auditor. The chairman of the audit committee is seated there. His worry it will be all risk, threats. Have you looked at that risk implications? Have you considered all that? You remember the pros and cons, the cost benefits, the best option, and you tell them, we already took care of your worries, because we also had a solution. One of the options and alternatives we had was this and that. But when we look at the risk impact and the cost implication, it was more, and we think this is more moderate, and we could be able to absorb all that. You have thought about it before you even came up. So as much as you have that one page, you also have your talking notes, and you have looked at all the questions that are likely and come up with answers, then you'll be able to address them. Because by the time you leave this platform, you want your proposals to be approved for implementation. You don't want to find yourself, let me go find out, let me go back to do this. You're wasting time, and you also your credibility. Speak their language by creating, you remember business acumen? Speaking the language of the business. Speak their language by creating objectives and success metrics based on what you will believe management preferences are. I gave you an example. I've come in with a proposal to recruit 10 people because we agreed in our strategic plan that we are moving our figure from 17 billion to 34 billion. And the current people, they are performing at optimal. We want to push them higher. We can, with them, we can be able to go to the highest of 20. And then when we recruit this by January, the time of essence, they'll be able to hit the ground running, and they'll be able to give us the 34. Someone will listen to such kind of a proposal. These objectives and metrics will show that you want to contribute to the overall business goal and give a clear outline of your recommendations potential. Keep in mind that the finding could be baseline metrics representing what has been collected, so that we don't go to HR and say, why are you asking for 10 people? Because it was in our HR strategy, we were to add 10 for, because of our staff establishment, and the department have asked for this number of people. So me, I'm responding to this department requisition. They are here, they can justify their figures. You want to work to them. There you will be talking like a typical HR administrative HR. But you see, you are owning the business, and you know the business objective and the driving, because you have asked questions, you have interrogated, you've worked with the line manager, and you own what you are carrying. Then showing management you've thought all the potential outcomes, concisely propose all potential options that you came through, highlight the options that you believe will be the best option. Management will appreciate that you looked at all the possible outcomes, and that you have a game plan for any scenario, presenting negative that can also spark conversation and engagement, allowing them to contribute their ideas, recommendation, incorporate them. And this kind of conversation can also strengthen the relationship with the management team and instill confidence in your talent and also the drive. And then leave room for adjustment, because you're going to get the feedback so that changes can happen over time, and you must leave room for this adjustment for management to input in order to optimize your synergy. Presenting a rigid strategy does not leave room for adjustment and could actually stifle or lead to failure or even your next appointment. And I think almost my very last slide, second last, performance coaching, which I'll just say on, because we need to build a team of people who can support you, your buy-in, that you can work with, that you can count on. And beside you being an internal consultant, you also want them to be internal consultants, and they can be incorporating you in their task force, so that you are able to have that outside look. It's very beneficial for you. So you support them, they support you, and then the buy-in and collaboration expands your horizon. And we can talk about performance coaching. It is a highly effective technique for improving performance of your employees and also your organization effectiveness, breaking the departmental silos as well. And coaching generally has two main areas of core focus: development and performance. And I can tell you for free, even when you come out here to do consultancy, you'll be developing a lot of people's capacity. They'll be trending with your licenses and what you'll have. Build their capacity, they'll also build you. In fact, most of the consultancies you get them through word of mouth and working in networks and synergies in groups. So you'll find one time Rhoda is the one owning the project because I'm the lead consultant, I'm using my firm. You'll find in other cases, I'm just a mere associate working with the other consultant who is not in that profession, but the client wants to hear, what is your HR competency about? Do you have enough consultants to do that? So I'll work with them, and any pitching, any boardroom discussions on matter HR, I'll be the one doing the presentations for them. So coach other people and be ready to be coached and learn, even for the people who are in the different field. Don't think that you're the one who knows in HR. They also have one thing, especially when it comes to organization effectiveness and the strategy, risk, business acumen and language, financial acumen, you learn a lot from them. And also the external competitive environment. So performance coaching is also known as high performance coaching. It's an ongoing process that aims at improving employees' performance in the workplace. It's about providing support as a performance coach, sharing the feedback, encouraging continuous improvement. The main pillars of coaching and employee performance management are feedback and collaboration. Feedback. So how can coaching improve performance, especially when you're talking about performance appraisal and feedbacking to employees? And we say a performance coach drives self-awareness. By providing continuous feedback, this helps employees understand how to better reach their performance goals. You show them their the black spots that they are not able to see. And then you should, every time we do learning, I always say, you train what you should do to the other people, but again, you're also a recipient of the same, because you can also be coached by other senior managers. Then the right challenge can help an employee become more committed to their performance. And then performance management coaching can help employees adapt to and manage change by supporting the development of skills, because you have done very good training needs analysis. You have looked at the performance gaps and the intervention, and then they'll be able to come up with skills like the resilience, innovation strategy, thinking out of the box, and also communication that can improve their performance. Then coaching for performance also helps to keep your employees on track, because they know we do appraisals for us to improve, not for sanctions or even to punish. It is for their better improvement, to do the role better, and also that they can rise through the career ladder. Then you can help your employees feel better prepared to tackle challenges, because they are aware to contribute more to the team, increasing employees' morale, because they can see the supportive force behind them, making you more competent also as an organization. And it helps managers. It also helps managers. There's something that is blocking my screen. And executive team develop new leadership strategies and identify potential skills that need to be developed. And with that, is all about internal consulting, what we had prepared for you. And that brings us to the end of the presentation today. I know I've gone beyond 12 as we had agreed, but I also wanted you to get value for your money that you have paid, because as a team, we started in late. We were still waiting for people to come in, but thank you very much. So we'll spare some 5 minutes for people's reactions, contributions, Q&A on the entire presentation. This presentation will be available for you to access, and it's something that, as long as you have done this course, you'll be able to access those at any time. So this is as the Academy of Certified HR Consultants. I can tell you, of course, we want to help the HR professionals to be able to renew their licenses. That's why the Academy has come up with a series of programs that we are running on a daily basis from 9 to 12 in terms of as we close the year. And I think for the rest of this week, we will still have programs that are running on this, and probably at this juncture. Let me look at the chat questions. You can just unmute your mic and tell us. Juliana, kindly allow me to exit for another session. That's okay. Sorry, I'm seeing this late. Very insightful. I plan to venture into external consultant. The lesson speaks are great. Have benefited a lot. We'll catch up with you. Thank you. Any questions, clarification? We are always free for advisory. This is also a platform that you can really hone your skills when you come to Academy. It's actually a network of HR, certified HR professionals that support a lot of people if you still feel like you are at the beginning, we can work with you, we can do training. Then it's very helpful. And we do this for joy and as just a consortium where we work with our other colleagues. So with that, if there are no questions that I'm seeing, I would mark that as end of the program. But I'll invite Dan, if you are here, if you want to have a word with the team. Dan? I think he has left.
I'm still here, Rhoda.
Oh, you're still there. Yeah. Any comments? I think that that comes to the close of our today's presentation. You could just maybe close.
The only thing I would want to say is to thank everybody for participating. And finally, that tomorrow, let's keep time. That will be at exactly 9 a.m. We'll be moving on to our next topic, which will be on communication and influencing skills. Then on Friday, we shall have change management skills in the morning. And later on in the afternoon, from 2 to 5, there will be another training, which will be handled by CHLP Irene Irene Nyako, which will be on managing talents. Then on Saturday, we will have the final topic with Rhoda, which will be on designing. No, on Friday morning, we shall have change management skills in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we shall have managing talents. Change management skills will be with Rhoda Wairuko. In the afternoon, we shall have Irene Miako. On Saturday, we shall have designing succession plans in the morning and HR analytics in the afternoon. These courses are well planned. They form part of the certified human resource business partner. So eventually, if at one time you want to pursue CHRBP and you realize you've already taken the 8 modules of the CHRBP, you can let us know for certification purposes. Thank you and enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to see you tomorrow. Have a